Five.
All right. Are we?
Yes, we are. I said it in public. Yep, we're live.
Yeah, we are. Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. This is Zero with Zero's Hobbies, and this is D&D After Dark. And I am joined by JD with It's a Critical.
Hey, guys.
We've got the Grim DM,
What's going on, fellas?
and we've got Cujo with the Overboard DM. What's up, fellas?
What's
Not
up?
much.
On.
Been a week, you know.
So today we are going to talk about starting a D&D campaign, or basically why would you aside from wanting to play the game, what would get you to what do you need to start playing Dungeons and Dragons? What do you need to start running Dungeons and Dragons actually? So it's for dungeon masters mainly. I mean, this could help players too who are aspiring to be dungeon masters, new dungeon masters, even old dungeon masters. I mean, if you've been dungeon mastering for a while, I feel like you should, you probably already have a system in place for doing that with your gaming group. But I mean, I'm pretty sure we've all got different perspectives on how to start our game. So let's kick it off with let's go with Grim. Grim, what do you got?
Righto. So if you're a player first and you start to get, and I think a lot of players end up getting the itch that they want to run a campaign, whether they think of a cool idea. I think the start off is just not to get complicated. Start small. Don't watch like Critical Role and think that that's what you're going to do, or feel the pressure to be like that straight out of the gate. And I would also suggest maybe for your very first game, maybe pick up a module, whether it's from Drive-Thru RPG or wherever, and read through one, just a small basic one, to see how they're written, get the hang of how a game is run and how they're organised. And I think once you run through something that's a bit more structured and put in your hands, then the second time around you're like, oh, well, I could do that with this and that sort of thing. So that would be my advice to new DMs. Grab something pre-published. There's heaps on the net for cheap. There's so many things that only cost you a couple of bucks. Wrap your head around it and run players through. You get used to how players like pull stuff out of left field or don't go the path that you want them to, and how to adapt to that. And then it just gets easier. It gets easier over time. And gaming with the same group, you learn what your players are like. So.
Okay. What about you, Cujo?
Well, I'll tell you. We're trying to talk about like new. Like
your volume is
DMs.
really low, Cujo. I can't hear you too well. Sorry.
All right, check.
Oh, that is better. There's that
Beautiful.
Okay. All right, yeah, it's this crappy phone. But what I was gonna say is that, like, you're talking about brand new DMs. I probably would try to take it because I really wanted to talk about this subject. But like, even if you're like you've been DMing a little bit and you want to get some new players involved, what do you want to do? And I say, make a one-shot. Make something like if you're messing with a little bit of a train, like maybe you're doing like some projects, some cardboard stuff, and make something up that's your own, and it's going to be something that you can it's wild, something that you really would want to see your players run through. And I mean, this is what I did just not too long ago with some brand new players. I just made a cool, think about what kind of things you'd want to see and what you'd want to play against, and kind of feel it out in your head. Go, okay, they're going to come into this room. They're going to probably see this. This will be cool. Maybe show them a door in the background that they can see from a distance, but they can't get there yet. Just kind of think of something really cool, not too long, and you don't have to worry about reading a book or it's all out of your head. If you want to change it on the fly, and it's just try to get through it. Not too much material, just enough to get through one session, just one. You'd have to have a little bit of experience with this. I mean, if you're brand spanking new, it's still easier to just kind of create on your own than to try to make sure you're reading out of a book and you don't want to miss anything, and then you got to keep turning to the book to read.
Real
That could
quick.
be, I find that could be hard. If
Give me
it's
one
more
second.
fluid to just kind of like pre-think about it in your head.
Hates on. He says, "What's he said first." Almighty says, "What's up, fellas?" And who else do we got? Almighty. Not much. Just yes, and tearing through it. You're going to do a video on it, Almighty. Okay. So critical. If you don't mind doing me a favor and just keeping track of the chats, so we can at least respond to these guys, so that we're not missing them. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Zero.
Yeah, and I apologize, Cujo. Go ahead.
Hey, Zero.
Yeah. What's up?
You're kind of lagging.
Your voice sounds robotic.
That's
It's
really-
you.
Is it just
Cujo.
me?
Yeah.
Is it just me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're kinda lagging.
Connection's a bit. Yeah.
I feel like I'm going. Do I sound robotic?
No, it's him.
No, it's just Cujo. He's
Cujo.
yeah.
Uh-oh.
Oh, we lost him.
Oh, come back, Cujo.
Yeah. Pity Dwarven Forge on an ISP as well.
Maybe he's got to pay the internet bill for the dwarf forge. Hey, Cujo, question.
There he is.
Oh, crap. What happened? What happened? What happened? Hang on,
Zero's
hang on.
gone.
What's going on, JD?
Okay, there we go. There we go.
Let's get Cujo back.
Yeah, he's frozen.
Yeah. Oh, hang on.
Oh.
No. Might need to restart his computer or something.
There we go. Well, he's in from his phone. Cujo, are you there?
I'm back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, real quick, let me just ask you something, Cujo. You said start from just like a straight from scratch, start a one shot. Are you also meaning like building things, or are you just saying like just from
Well,
the
I
top
mean,
of your head type
if you're the, I guess you have to determine. That's a good question. Like, if you're a brand new DM, you don't have anything.
Right.
So I guess
Right.
even if you're a couple time DM, like you did a couple sessions, but you got a new group of people, and what do you do? What do you do? Do you just take them through whatever you did the last group, or do you want But what do you have at your what do you have? You're still new, so if you're theater of the mind only, I guess that's the easiest. I mean, if you can think of something that you'd want them. Hey, they're going to go into this cave. I want to have one chamber, and then I want to have it go off into another chamber, and then I want into the back. I want this huge cavern that opens up, and if you can think of that, and think about some of the creatures that you're going to encounter, and if it turns out to be too short, that's good. I mean, at least they had fun, and picks things that how to play well, like the monsters, how they act. Maybe you can even voice act a couple of those, and to make sure that they're going to have so much fun that first time that they'll always want to keep playing. They're going to say, "Wow, that was so great." If you try to get right into a campaign setting and right into something that you're trying to read out of a book and memorize, and you don't or have to turn to a book for anything, that could just really slow it up. And the first time has to be fluid, flow, have fun, exciting, And if you're playing, and if it's just something that you're creating, you can go off the cuff. There's nothing, you can change it as you go. You can add another different creature that just popped up because maybe it was way too easy, and it will be really cool. How about one of these?
Yeah.
And I just, like I said, but theater of the mind versus if you already have some stuff, or if you have enough time to plan it in advance, maybe you can get creative.
Come on, shut the door.
Almighty says that you should run a short session to start new players, like 2 to 3 hours is easy if you're new to doing it. And I
agree with that.
I think, I don't, honestly, for the both of you, for Grim and Cujo, I gotta say you both have valid I think you have valid points, and there's definitely valid approaches to each technique. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's value in finding a module and or some sort of resource to give you your framework, right? Because if you're completely new, you don't have any reference. You just know it's fantasy, right? But if you have a resource like a module or a campaign setting book or something, or even if you want to go to the website and just download something, everybody has a cell phone, right? So everybody, you can go there and it's free, right? So you can definitely like download something and say, okay, let me at least read this source material to see, so that I don't have to do as much, brain work, I guess.
You can definitely plagiarize too. Like I own
Yeah.
a couple of hundred modules, but I've never actually run a module.
Mm-hmm.
But you can take, and one example I like is like just stealing a plot from a movie and making it your own.
Yeah.
Like a steel golem is trying to kill a member of the party, like Terminator 2 style, coming from another plane rather than another time zone.
Oh yeah.
Jurassic Park, all those sort of things. You can just, everyone knows the story, and players, like when they pick up, you're doing like, this is like the Terminator. I think players get a kick out of that sort of stuff.
I think it's that's a benefit too, because you know, if you're all new and the players are brand new, it gives them some sort of anchor to latch on to. Something to say, okay, I know this is fantasy, but I know what you're talking about because I've seen that movie, or I've seen that neat, that cliche thing, and they can, it's something for them to hold on to. You know what I mean? Something for them to grasp and say, okay, I understand what's going on here.
But I agree with Grim though. Like my advice is a little bit more for someone that's DM'd at least a couple times, or really has a deep dive into all the books and But yeah, if you got a simple module, and I know that when Grim's talking modules, he's usually talking the older stuff, and I know that those are smaller booklets, to the point, not a ton of reading. If you're looking 5e and you're looking at an adventure, it's a whole campaign book, and you can get.
Well, you gotta remember too, though, Cujo, campaign books are completely different than modules.
Yeah.
Campaign books give you the layout of the world. Modules just give you that adventure. And like some of those old school AD&D adventures, man.
Yeah.
There was pages upon pages that you had to read through to your players, and you're taking a long time.
Okay.
I mean, so real quick, Critical, or JD, what's your take?
Okay,
you're the newest DM.
Yeah. So basically, okay, what I did, I bought the starter set, Lost Mine and Fandover, and I took one of these books, and I made notes on like battles and stuff.
Then the green screen is green, by the way.
Yeah, no,
it's really green.
Yeah, it's really green. Yeah, so no magic book today, guys. No, it was for some reason it's not working right, so I just got rid of it today. You don't want to see the back of the garage, but
yeah, that's a good. That is a good campaign to run, or a good module.
Yeah,
to run through.
I've heard tons of people like praise that module, the Minds of Fendelver. Like they said, that's probably one of the better modules they've made in a really long time.
It's the ran one too.
To get people in and get going. I haven't run it yet.
It's very simple. That's why when you see it, Zero, you're going to see that it's very cut and dry. It's simple. It's very, not cliche, but it's
like,
yes, yeah, and no. I mean, it is, but it's just, you're going down a trail. You're delivering some. Okay, wait, spoilers, everybody.
La 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 la.
But if you haven't played through the whole thing yet,
if you haven't played Fandelver by now, okay.
It's only been out for 5 years.
But it's really easy to put your own flair on. That's what I think it is. They give you enough information and a cool little story plot and line. And if you've got creative ability, if you're a DM, most of the time, well, sometimes you can be the DM because nobody else wants to be, but it might be because you want to be a DM because you actually have creativity and you really love to do stories and stuff. Well, that sense is whenever a module or something, a campaign, doesn't have a lot there or sandboxy. It's to let you kind of run wild with it.
Yeah,
And that
so,
Lost Mine of Fandelver is like that. You can really add to it and have fun with it.
like, yeah, I just ran the first part, the first chapter, then did the rest on my own. You
Yeah.
know,
Crit, JD, you said you bought the starter set, right? And
Mhm.
now this was your very first endeavor into Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, it actually
Okay,
was.
so what were your initial purchases for Dungeons and Dragons to run your actual campaign?
Wait a second. Before, what did you play before that? Anything?
World of
No, I mean
Warcraft,
no World of Warcraft.
Skyrim,
Okay,
So
but
video
no
games.
board games
no
at all.
tabletop games, no.
No tabletop games, nothing.
Okay,
Yeah,
I just wanted.
no Pathfinder, no nothing. I came in completely new to this,
Okay,
Good.
so
how you like it so far?
Anything else?
dude, I love it. You know, it's
Well, yeah, he's
yeah,
he's committed now.
yeah. I got my own channel. Hey,
What happened?
One of us.
What happens when you roll it? What happens when you roll a 20?
it's a critical.
Now drink.
I see what you did. I see what you did there.
Actually, one thing I might add, and I guess this sort of goes with some of the stuff we've been talking about in the Discord, which I recommend anyone watching who's not in it to join, is we've talked about the use of miniatures and terrain, but even like bottle caps and that, if you can visualize the combat, it's one less thing you have to try to commit to memory. If you've been doing it for ages and you can sort of keep tabs on what players are doing, but make it simple for yourself and your players to understand what you're talking. It takes the pressure off, well, you're here, but this person's sort of behind you over here. Two bottle caps, that's
well, I didn't want to be over there. I thought I was closer than that.
Yeah, well, that's it.
No, because I put you here. In my head, you're here, so that's where you are.
The books, but okay, so the books I started off with, though, when I started, I just started off with the basic rule set.
Which rules? Where
5e basic off the internet.
Okay, so you download. Okay, I did the same thing. I downloaded the 5e because I didn't. So okay, for me, because it was so long ago, I would suggest finding those free resources first. You know, like don't spend a dime if you don't have to, because right now, I mean, it's a good time. Yeah, not everybody likes Fifth, not everybody's into it. That's okay. But it's a really good time for Dungeons and Dragons because there's so much content on the internet. There's so much stuff to share. You could play this game for free, literally. Like, you don't need to spend a dime. You can, you know, you buying the player's handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide is just going to make the game that more involved. You know what I mean? You're going to get more into the stories and what's really, you know, what characters can and can't do, things like that. But download the free 5e rules. You know what I'm saying? There's places where you can download quick modules. You know, Critical is constantly putting up stuff on his channel about, you know, free maps, you know, free city maps, free tools that you can use to get your game going. And again, you know, I mean, we're talking budget, we're talking, you know, Urban Commando style. You know, you've got minimal budget, so I would suggest starting with that, learning, at least reading some. Even if you can't, go to like a used bookstore and pick up one of those old Forgotten Realms novels, you know, or Pathfinder novel. That's enough inspiration in those books to get your mind going. And if you're a DM, you know, those are the things you know you're going to benefit from. Yeah, you could watch Lord of the Rings, you could watch you could watch all the classic fantasy movies as well, and you could use those tropes like Grim was saying. There's no such thing as plagiarism in Dungeons and Dragons. You know, I think Bill said it yesterday in his on his video he posted. Bill from RollStats. You know, he said, you know, I can't remember the quote exactly, but it's something about artists stealing or greater artists.
Great artist steals, better artists use, or something like that.
Something like that, plagiarizing, something like that. But whatever the point is, his point was that you can take from any source material you want, man. You know what I'm saying? There's no limit. You know, you see a movie you like Lord of the Rings, you like Middle Earth, you like The Shire, you can use that in your game, especially if you're running a first time game for everybody. I mean, the minimum, I guess you need dice, right? So everybody needs to get some dice, or you could share a set of dice.
Dice
if
app.
you really, or you could use a
Yeah.
dice app. You see, there you
That-
go. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and
it's all
and
free.
just so you know, D&D Beyond is actually free to a certain extent, and they are incorporating a dice roller as well now.
Okay.
It should be coming out soon. Yeah.
That's
Now,
that's
if you-
my take on it. Like for me personally, myself, I went out and got the starter set. I went out and got the essentials set. You know what I'm saying? I went out and got Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, Monster Manual, because before I started with 5th edition, I played 3.5, and that was my game. I had damn near every book that they put out for that system. And when 5 came out, I swore I wasn't going to do it because I played 4 and it was terrible. So I was like, no, I'm not spending more money on more books. F that, and it's been, I just started buying stuff for 5, so it took me a while before I started jumping on the bandwagon and spending money. But before I did all of that, I downloaded the rules and I read them and I said, okay, this doesn't seem that bad. You know what I'm saying? I know there's people who have issues with like the power creep in the game and, the players being like uber fantastic and powerful, but it is what it is. And I think in the end, the GM controls all that. You know what I'm saying? Like you can set the level of power in your game. You can set the level of magic, the level of high fantasy versus low fantasy. You can set all that stuff, but that's more for experienced DMs. But what I'm saying, like, get started, just download the stuff for free, read it, give yourself some backup. You know what I'm saying? Like, put ammo in your gun, so to say, before you actually start rolling dice and stuff like that. That's just my take, because why spend the money? Why spend $30 on a book and then realize you and your friends don't really like this game? Now you have $30, $60, $70 worth of books you're not going to use.
The biggest thing you can do, if I were to restart over, and I was just like, I'm like Crit, and we're just like, hey, not when you got family members, maybe, but not, not your kids, but if you've got a bunch of friends and family or whatever you're gonna play. And you're like, hey, we're going to play this game. It's like, hey, we're going to go play Monopoly. Okay, who bought the Monopoly game? Okay, you went out and bought it, and you sit down at the table and you play. Okay, we're going to play D&D. All right, all the players are free, and the DM spends hundreds of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's free to a certain extent, and then you get involved in it, and then you spend, or you spend a bunch of time and hobby money. You end up becoming your life, and then the players just go, is it D&D day? Okay, let me just come over and play,
Right.
Yeah.
So you want to be a character if you want to be free. Completely free.
You want to be a player.
A dungeon master is stuck in his dungeon. He has tons of painting to do. He has things to buy.
There's
He's
people
got
right now listening to this show like, this guy.
Well, not everybody can afford Dwarven Forge like Cujo.
He's not.
So he's trying to come down cheap for us,
But I don't think so.
Make it
You know what I'm saying?
run!
Without going too far off the topic, I don't
Yeah.
believe you're wrong, and I say that in the sense of at the point where I became a dungeon master, is when I realized, holy crap, there is a lot of work to do. And there are a lot of things. If I want to have a game the way I want it to be run, I'm going to have to spend a lot of money.
But if you're a player and you decide that you're going to start DMing and all you've got's the player's handbook, because I encourage every player to have their own copy of the book.
Yeah.
You don't need to go and buy the DMG or the monster manual. You've already got the book with the rules for combat. And another thing is, like Almighty was saying in the chat there, like, combat can be a little boring until your players get used to it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're running a combat and you're like, I can't really remember the armor class of this or how many hit points of that got left, just wing it. Have a DM screen just like, you totally killed that thing and it splattered it everywhere and they run off and all that. Like, don't let your fear of, if I got the rules exactly right, like, rules are a guideline.
Just by the way, if our player characters are listening, we don't do that. No.
No, I didn't.
No. We know exactly all the stats. We know everything all the time, 100%.
I didn't do that Wednesday, okay?
Yeah, I said-
I didn't do that on Wednesday.
I sent new DMs.
We gotta
But
stick
yeah,
together,
just have
though.
fun with it.
Those
Yeah,
guys
yeah.
know everything too. We got to stick together, guys.
The funny thing
Players
is,
are out to get us.
the funny thing is Wednesday is I did my bi-weekly session with my coworkers, right? And one of my players, he DMs another session, and against these hobgoblins he was going against. One of them was a hobgoblin captain, and he's like, "Why isn't this guy dead yet?" I'm like, "Because we added another player, so I added more hit points."
Ah.
You
You told him what was going on.
But he was metagaming. He was metagaming, and I told him, like, I added more hit points.
Oh no.
just like you're hitting him, you're just not doing enough damage. Like you fight harder or fight smarter. But that's the thing too. Like I think if you're a new DM, most players are gonna. If you're like, okay, this is the first session I'm DMing, I think most people as players are gonna take it a bit easy on you, give you a chance, and you can DM a session and think, oh man, that really sucked. But the players could actually have fun. Like it's sort of don't put that pressure on yourself, and you can sort of read the players and see whether they're enjoying the time or they're bored and they want to start checking Facebook or Instagram and that. Like if their phones are coming out and it's not to check their stuff to do with the game, might have to change it up a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Just takes practice is all it is.
Almighty. Yeah, I agree. Simple puzzles, things like that, like room puzzles, things. Adding that as a challenge is always a good thing, especially whether you're new or you're old. I mean, those puzzles are always like quintessential things to add to a game. And I agree. I mean, it's another form. It doesn't always have to be monsters. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't always have to be, hack and slash. I mean, puzzles are a really good way to get people thinking and get them engaged too, especially players that are like Grim just said, players that will start doing this, and they're not looking at their stats. They're checking their Facebook status. It's a good way to re-engage people. So yeah, I agree with all my well, hang on one second, guys. Yeah, I think Daniel had mentioned that it's an important thing to at least give it a try without having to spend a lot of money on books, and that was my point, Dan. I mean, I feel like a lot of times, right, like especially in this day and age, we want to have it all. You know what I'm saying? Especially if we're an experienced DM or experienced player, you just want to go get it. You know what I mean? You want to go and grab it, pick it up, and so you can pour through all the tomes and lore. And I don't encourage all players to do that. I mean, it's like Grim said, I would at least encourage players to get players' handbooks if they're committed to playing. That's after the first session. That's after your first actual rolling of dice, playing a game, deciding if this is something you're going to commit to. Then I'd say, okay, you guys really like the game, you want to keep going, that's cool, I'll run it. Go out and get yourselves a player's handbook or download it or whatever, however you feel you want to do it. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Just go on ahead, get yourself a player's handbook so that you have that at your availability. And I think I said this in the last video or the last show that I want people to be prepared. And, I do, but I may have come off the wrong way saying it the way I said it. I want people to be prepared, and I don't like it when people are constantly pouring through the books, but not when it's their turn. Or not on their turn, rather. So if it's not your turn, go ahead. Look through the books, look at what you're going to do, take a look at what your stats are, your spells, whatever. But when it's your turn, that's when I say, hey, pick your head up. Things are going on, engage, either role play with your fellow gamers or let me know what it is you're doing. That was my point to that statement before, but that's why. So I do encourage players' handbooks. I don't encourage monster manuals or dungeon masters guides unless that player, as a group, you guys have decided that you're all going to take turns dungeon mastering, which I do know people who have done that. They're all going to take turns dungeon mastering, so they all went out and bought the course.
I don't know those people, but yeah, I heard about them.
I got too many control issues to allow that sort of thing.
I do too.
I got one that
I agree with you, Grim, but at the same time, I mean, look at Bill, and some of us have not played in how many years
at all.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
it's kind of nice to sit back and say, okay, It's all you. You know.
Yeah.
Yes, we do have to relinquish.
But
We have to
again,
relinquish that control and say, okay, I'm not
One
gonna
of my
get bent out of
players-
shape if he, he throws a blue dragon at me with green dragon stats. I just gotta let it be.
One of my
No, you go, critical.
Okay, I was going to say one of my players, he's a fellow GM and stuff. He goes, "Hey, JD, if you ever get tired, let me know. I have adventures lined up. I would take over DMing for a while. I want you to play because the best way to learn how to DM is playing."
Watch out for that guy.
Yeah. Can't be trusted.
you're not DMing that good. I'll get it. I got this.
I'll bring this. Oh, you guys like mine better? Oh, surprise.
I guess I'll DM from now on.
Yeah.
There's always
You know what?
someone.
If they do it
Watch
at my
out for
house,
that guy. Is he watching right now?
probably. No, Yusufa, are you watching right now?
Stats says he's like, but I want to check FaceGram. Yeah. I do too.
I'm like,
I can't help
No,
it.
you cannot.
I'm
LOL.
totally on my subs and supporters, man. They gotta be
Hey,
on there.
hey, I've got a comment that'll talk about Crit and Almighty's comment about puzzles.
Yeah.
In that one shot I made, I think I talked about this before, but I mean, you don't have to have. What made me think of this puzzle was I had some Dwarven Forge levers and stuff, and I'm like, how can I incorporate?
Rub it in.
Hey, whoa. But you can do this in theater of the mind, I just have stuff, so I'm like, hey, how can I use these levers into a puzzle? And literally, if the player characters are watching right now, you're not gonna like this, but so they're on their way over, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, if I got these levers and they're behind cages and they can't reach them, and I know that the one guy didn't take Mage Hand, I'm like, okay, how are they gonna get to these levers? I'm like, well, I'm gonna let them figure that out, but I had to figure out real quick, like if I have this lever up and this lever mid, okay, it's gonna open this portal, and if I open this, this one's down and this one's up, and I'm quickly sketching out all the possibilities of these two levers and where they can be, and then
You sound just like a beholder.
literally they come over and we get to that section. I wrote these notes down on Chicken Scratch right as they came over. I had to hurry up and get it down. And oh my God, if they didn't pick the exact ones they needed right off the bat. Wow. So as a DM, like now this is on Critical, when someone asks you like how many hit points this has and what's going on, you don't tell them that you added more hit points. So when they pulled the right levers and it went up and down, I said, it should have been, yay, you did it. I'm like, no, this comes out,
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I just changed what was the good one to not that one. It's going to be this one now, and because I didn't want it to end right there because the story we have more time.
That's just running with the, like moving on the fly. You know what I mean? That's.
But if they knew I did that, they would be like, what? We got it perfect on the first try.
Well,
Come on.
And all that dealing with changes all the fly or players doing the unexpected, that will come with experience. Don't sweat it.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how long you've been DMing, you still make mistakes. Like,
oh, yeah,
I don't, but
you get stumped. You get stumped every once in a while. You're like, I didn't expect that.
Yeah, it happens like that. The players are totally going to do this. They do the other thing, and it's like,
yeah.
If I had more, if it wasn't a one shot and I had more stuff made that day, and it was going to end the story just like that, I'm like, well, we have more time. We have more time to play. Let's get a little more time in.
Ha ha ha! Cujo does sound like AB holder. He's paranoid. I think we need to start calling him Cujo.
Hey, I have a pet fish in a bowl next to me.
He's totally a beholder.
Oh my God!
What do you think? That's what I said. That's what I've been telling him.
Yeah. But I mean, what? It's it makes
now we know
sense,
why he can afford everything.
It's like, it's that whole cliche, like you want the players to go right, but they go left, or they don't even go at all. You gotta get them to go the way you want them to go. It doesn't, right and left doesn't even matter anymore.
Cave in.
You just have to be able to get them where you want them to be. I mean, pretty much. I mean, because and I know some players right now are biting their nails like effing, I want to choose my own destiny, and I get it. I totally do. But when players unwittingly derail a game for lack of decision or poor decision or whatever, I don't want to say you should punish them because you really shouldn't, but you should at least, hey, let's go this way. You know what I mean? You can always present your next hook or MacGuffin or whatever it is. You can always present it in a different way. You just got to be, as like you said, as Grim said, you'll learn with experience how to do that. There should never be a point where the DM's like, oh man.
Things as simple as if they're in a dungeon, they got to go left or right, and you want them to go right, and they're like, we're going to go left. They step on a stone, there's a click, and a wall flies up and blocks their path, so they have to go right. You're not like, oh, damn, what do I do now?
You know what I usually do? You know it's funny because what I usually do, I don't even do that. I just take what I was putting to the right and shift it to the left. They have no idea.
Yeah.
You know I use my Dwarven Forge rock slide. And I put the rock slide piece. I put the rock slide piece right in their way, and I'm like, "Where are you gonna go now?"
See, and that's
they're like, "Oh." Then I put a rock slide behind them. Then I'm going, "Where are you gonna go now? Now you're stuck in the tunnel."
And then he takes spikes on the side, be like this thing from Star Wars.
Then I say, arrows start shooting through slits at you. Now what you doing?
So
you should have went left. All I'm saying is you should have went left. Now you're dead.
But if they went left, you would have said, "Oh, you should have went right."
But see, I run AD&D, so if players go left instead of right, it's like, you sure you really want to do that? And then just start rolling fistful of dice behind the screen, and they're like, we're going right.
I'll keep that in mind. You want to do that?
They don't. Hey, my players know me. If I smile, they're like, oh shit. They're just like, oh, what the hell?
I think it's whenever I start rolling dice behind the screen, they're like,
yeah. I love the look of it. And that's the thing as a DM, like, just do that at random. Say nothing, just the occasional, and I hear, what was that for?
It's funny because you see the people who are paying attention, I do it when people aren't paying attention. When I see them distracted, I'll roll some dice in the background. See the ones who are paying attention, they immediately open the player's handbook and start looking. Wait,
how many spells have I got left?
And the guy who's not paying attention is like, what's going on? My dude.
Another thing you can do is just say, what's your wisdom modifier?
Yeah.
What's your passive perception?
Well, what do you need to know that for? Can I see your character sheet? That's a real good one.
Yeah.
I need to look at your character sheet for a minute. Why?
Hand them a blank one and say, keep that handy.
So real quick, 1 second, guys. Grim, do you have any more advice for a new DM?
Nah.
No.
I think that pretty well covers it all. You do 3 or 4 sessions, you're really going to start picking up the swing of it, and then finding your legs. And
yeah, I mean, I think after a couple sessions, you're determining whether or not you're actually going to commit to it.
Zero. Did you determine has this person ever played the game before as a player, and now wants to DM, so they do have some experience?
Well, I was just assuming that in general, let's just okay, for example, I know
because Crit didn't have any experience at all.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I know a group of guys at my old job who literally were like, I think we're gonna play D&D, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm like, you played before? They were like, no. And I was like, oh, okay, and they're like, we're gonna get this and we're gonna do that, and I'm like, oh, all right. So they they bought the Fendelver, and these are the guys that I said that they were taking turns DMing, each session. That one guy would DM a session, the next guy. And I was like, you guys are all, you ready for that? That's some hardcore shit. Excuse me, but I'm like, why don't one of you learn how to DM, and then the rest of you be players for a little bit, and then take your turns after so many sessions. But they did their thing and they played, and I don't know if they're still playing. So Grant, if you're on there, or any of you guys, if you're still playing, holler, raise your hand. If you're still playing, I don't know, but I have known people to just jump in. I mean, I jumped in it in '86. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah.
Everybody here has at one point jumped in and gave it a shot.
What did Bill say?
What's Bill saying?
Bill said, old school D&D is when the DM asks, are you sure? That is the correct answer. No, wait, I don't do that. And then he goes, but I do anything but that.
Yeah.
And I think most people do that path. They play first and then they get curious about the DM. But yeah, Critical started DMing straight away, but we're going to revoke the DM card if you give away too many behind the screen secrets.
Okay, so what do you do?
can't-
What do you do when one of your players is a DM?
Well, you slap them, tell them shut the F up.
Yeah.
No,
DM
I'm
your
just
own
kidding,
game,
I'm just
pal.
kidding. I mean, listen.
I mean, that-
So hold on. Let's see. That's actually a good question.
No, it is a good question.
I'm going to get to it. Give me 1 second, but I just wanted to respond to Almighty. He says he's 4 years in. He's not played, just like you. He hasn't played yet as a PC.
Wow.
You know, there's nothing. Listen, there's nothing wrong with it. My one of my oldest friends, the guy who got me started in Dungeons and Dragons, he has played very, very far and few between. But he started as a DM. You know what I'm saying? Like we jumped in, we tried it, we liked it. He bought the box, we jumped in. He was DMing at that point for I don't know how many years before we actually played in a game where he played as a player. You know, so it's a thing. It does happen. You know, so I understand. I mean, if you really want to be a player, then talk to your group. Say, hey, I'm going to take a break. I'd like someone else to run a session of something, a one shot or whatever, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or go to your local gaming store. I mean, every time I go to one of my local gaming stores, there has never been a shortage of Dungeons and Dragons players. Ever. I've never gone into a gaming store that's been like, damn, where's all the D&D at? No, there's always been somebody either playing or talking about it. I mean, it's just me. I'm the kind of person that can go up to somebody and say, hey, how you doing? I play Dungeons and Dragons too. I'm not afraid of that. I know some people are, but there's nothing to say you can't go to a gaming store and say, hey, can I jump in? And I guarantee you, unless they're really focused on their campaign and they're about to kill Tiamat, they're going to be like, yeah, hell yeah. Because any chance to get a new player, right? Like,
yeah,
that's gold. Now, Crit, what was your question? Your good question?
Okay.
Oh,
so what do you do when? Yeah. What do you do when one of your players is also a fellow DM?
So how long has he been DMing?
God, I can't remember how long he said, but like his dad.
Okay, so he's got experience.
Yeah.
So this is just my opinion, and
is that the same guy that said he'd take over for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So give me a break if I ever need
that's
one.
What I figured.
I mean, I didn't have to ask that, but I did.
No, it's good that you confirmed it because I was thinking the same thing. I see you, Cujo. I see you.
He's a good guy. So awesome coworker.
So okay, it's tricky, right? Here's the rub. How much do you want to keep DMing? That's what you got to ask yourself. How committed to dungeon mastering are you? Right? Because if you're not sure, if you're a little bit on the fence still, you're feeling a little insecure about your DMing, that's probably a good point to swallow your pride, take a step back, and say, okay, let me play in some of your games, you know. And this may be a double benefit, right? Because he'll get to DM because he's used to doing it. He's got the skills. He's got the experience. He knows what he's doing. You will get the benefit of watching and learning from an experienced dungeon master firsthand.
I bet you after one session, you'll just be like, I want to DM again.
You know, you're not wrong because that's usually what winds up happening. It's like, all right, go ahead, run it. And then you're like, I got it next time. I'm good. It's true, but that's just my opinion. I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Cujo?
I agree. I mean that it would be rough. I mean, like I said, I mean, if I was running a game for all you guys, I mean, all you experienced DMs, I've never done that. I've never ran a game for most of my people I've ran a game for never played ever, or they only played as players, if anything else.
Right.
I've never ran into any meta gamers. I've never ran into any super power gamers that really just know everything about D&D. And so I have a great benefit that a lot of people don't have. I mean, I'm not trying to go to hobby stores and trying to get into. If you go to a hobby store to play, word of wise, I mean, just from what I've heard, you're going to run into a lot of people that love the hobby and are very intelligent. Yeah, they're very passionate and intelligent on everything about D&D, and I haven't had to run into that type of player, But I've heard funny stories, and but as far as running a game for DMs, if they're good-hearted people like you guys, you'll cut some slack, and you're not gonna like hold me to the fire like, yeah, that Joe's not very good.
But
maybe you can at least hold that under your breath, and at least don't say it,
But I think too,
I'll slip you a little note that says Joe sucks.
Oh man! And then I'm gonna stand up and say I gotta whisper. I need to tell Zero something. Did the NPC just figure it out? And like it'll just be like you suck too, but your player skills suck real bad.
But DMs also appreciate, as a player who normally DMs, look, I appreciate the work that the current DM's doing, and I think a lot of DMs who get the opportunity to play are rewarding players for that new DM because they'll really sort of throw themselves into, I think, the story and the role play and that kind of stuff, just in my experience. But
yeah,
like I'll literally play in anyone's game.
You know what, Critical? Real quick, stats.
He says I wouldn't necessarily say that playing with people who are passionate and knowledgeable is bad. In fact, I'll go out on a limb and say it's a good experience. At least it's been my experience.
Right, and I've had the same experience. I've only had a couple instances where I've played in a group that I didn't know, that I just walked into and said, hey, I'll throw down, no problem. Where it was like, whoa, dude, like this is way out of line. You know what I'm saying? And that maybe 1 or 2 times out of my entire time playing Dungeons and Dragons. But for Critical, for your situation, I mean, if you do want to DM and you stay DM, that's the player that honestly that's your best player. Not in the sense that all the other ones suck. What I mean is like that's the guy, and I've mentioned this before, that's the guy you should use to your benefit, right? Like whenever there's an argument about rules, that's the guy that should be going through the book for you so that you don't have to. You know what I'm saying? That's the guy
and that's what he does.
To look stuff up for you and say, okay, here it is, boom, 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 done. You know what I'm saying? And not in the sense that like he's showing you up and saying, okay, well, you don't know anything, and here, you know what I mean? No, that's the guy that should be supporting you.
Yeah.
I had a player like that, and I benefited from him because he was really good at finding what he needed to find when it came down to a dispute, if it was a dispute, and he was able to, moderate as well. Not that I was like, okay, well, I'm the dungeon master and what I say goes, anything like that, but he was able to say, okay, what is it you're complaining about, player A, versus what the DM is saying? Like, what is it you're not understanding, or what is it we're confused about? And then he's able to moderate and say, okay, this is what I'm seeing, this is what the rules say, it's up to the DM or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And he was able to do that for me, and that was actually a really valuable thing. And you have that at your disposal. If you're going to continue DMing, that's a very good asset. And it's also probably a good idea to, outside of the game, talk to him. If you have questions, talk to him and ask him. I mean, I'm sure he'd be more
and if he's a veteran DM, he's gonna be happy that he's playing a character.
Yeah.
And then just exactly. And
that's like chill for a DM. You only gotta freaking role play one person. Oh, okay.
And one of my other players, I had this big toolbox, right, full of my DM stuff, and like he goes to this other guy, this other player's house for his session, and like, dude, I'm just amazed on how you use some of the stuff. You use bottle caps, you use those soda pop rings for condition trackers and stuff. I'm just amazed because I guess they don't use that stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just that's using your resources.
Everybody's DM style is different. You know what I mean? Like I know there's people watching right now who use theater of the mind. They don't use any props, anything else. I mean, and that's
like I'm gearing up to like these tiles that I'm making at home and these starting to buy minis. I've never, ever run D&D with any sort of miniatures or tiles in my life. In 32 years I've been playing. Like I've never ever played with minis in my life, D&D.
Welcome to a whole new world.
And when you say when you say there's people watching that only use theater of the mind, you're speaking Bill.
No, I'm sure listen, don't discredit that because
I know,
honest,
but I think it's cool.
Theater of the mind for years and years and years as a player. That's all we had. It wasn't until 3.5 when I started dungeon mastering is when I started using miniatures. I've always wanted to. And I told my dungeon master, maybe we should use figures so we know where everybody's at. He's like, it's too much work. It's not necessary. Blah 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 blah. You can imagine, and we did. That's what we did. Because that's what we had. But once miniatures came into the picture, I was like, this is so much easier. Boom, 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 boom. Everything's right there. There's no questions. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was it. It was like, that's where you are. That's where you move. And I let them move their characters. I don't care. You want to move your guy? You got so much movement. You know what you got, where you can and can't go. Boom, that's where you're at. That's where you left your guy? All right, cool. It's like chess. You take your finger off your piece, that's where he's at. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's it.
And just a quick comment on that. I guess Grim can answer this, and maybe you 02 because you played it. But how did you handle? I know I don't want to get off on a tangent. Just real quick, how did you handle in Theater of the Mind? And I guess this is good for new DMs as well. Not just only the placement of where everybody was at, and everybody kind of knowing where they're at. I guess if you're fighting someone and you're a base-to-base contact, then you know where you're at. But how'd you handle the movement? Is like movement thrown out the window? Like, hey, I got 30 feet of movement. Well, this monster happens to be 35 feet away from you.
Well,
because I just said it. Because it's like it's theater of the mind, and I think he's going to be out of your range.
They didn't have those types of movement increments back then. They didn't use those increments. You had a speed. You had like a land speed, right? Like an overland speed or something like that.
You did have like sort of like you can move 30 feet in a round type thing. And some players or DMs really stuck to it, and others didn't. But way back in the day when I first started playing, that was still very much the classical dungeon crawl. So the big thing was like, what's the order of the party? The tank, even though they weren't called tank centers, in the front. The wizards getting protected at the back. You just bursting into a room. There's monster A, B, C there. People are rolling initiative, and then it was basically sort of tracking initiative, and they'd be like, well, I'm attacking, monster A, I'm attacking monster B, and me as a DM, notepad, we're just, there in combat, and whether they're in hand-to-hand combat or not. But you already have like a map of the dungeon. Yeah. So if the dungeon's smaller than 30 feet square, in that round, they're going to be able to go up and engage. So that's kind of how I've done it. Like, I know they've had sort of...
I used maps as well. Like, I like cartography. So I'd always draw out my maps anyway, or copy the ones from the books, because the books always had them as well. And I just use like a pencil and just mark where people say they were. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, where are you at? The only time it really came into question was with traps and things like that. Like, a rogue's going to address the trap. Okay, where's everybody else at, right? Because, like, if you're standing next to the rogue looking over his shoulder and it explodes, you're taking damage too. And I've had people, like, I've had players, like, go to a door, I wasn't a DM, I was actually playing, but one of our players, he went up to a door. He swung the door open, and there was a wizard on the other side of the door with a fireball spell, like, cocked and locked. He was waiting. Like, he knew we were coming because he was scrying, and he was like, pow! And the player was like, no. When I opened the door, I jumped behind it. And we were like, no, you didn't. It was an argument. It turned into a big fight, and we were like, listen, as players, you did not say you were doing that, so you opened the door and said, ta-da, and got blasted with a fireball. Like, that's just what happened to you.
Did it kill him?
And no, it didn't kill him, but he took so much damage, he might as well have been dead. You know what I'm saying? He was really upset about it because he's a rogue. He didn't have a lot of hit points. But he was like, yo, you just threw the door open, you stupid. Like, what? That's what happens when you do stuff like that. But that was theater of the mind. You know what I'm saying? And those were the only times where it was like, wait a minute, where were you? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's it. Because usually, if there's 3 orcs in the room and there's 4 party members, the wizard is generally not going to jump into the fight. So who's going to be doing what, pretty much, And back then, it was like, you knew the rogue was going to be maneuvering for a backstab. You knew the fighter was going to go right in and start doing some damage because they didn't have the feats and things that, I mean, they started putting them in Dragon Magazine and stuff like that, but they didn't have all that stuff that you could calculate before you even moved. You know what I'm saying? It was like, well, I'm going to go attack because I have 3 attacks and I'm just going to use them. You know what I mean?
And see, in first edition AD&D, a round was a minute. And
Right.
it wasn't until I went to 2 either they dropped a round down to 6 seconds. So you could give the players, like, what are you doing during the round? They got a bit more time to sort of, well, I'm going to sneak around with this and do this, as you were saying, and work on the strategy and tactics. But now, and especially in 5e, like, combat's pretty fast-paced, like, and the better I guess you get at DM in combat, you can just make it bang, 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 this is happening in a bit of a whirlwind. So, but I think miniatures definitely make visualization of combat for inexperienced players and inexperienced DMs way easier.
Yeah.
And
Most definitely.
So, like, I've always done theatre of the mind, but I think now, and after all this time, it's just a combination of the two. Like, I'm not going to make terrain and scenery to cover every situation through the whole session.
Boo.
But yeah.
Dude, though, not all of us can afford it, and I just ran out of film, so I got to stop printing for a while.
But the lowly common man is just going to have to make a little bit of terrain and theater of mind the rest.
Hey, listen, if you can afford to order out a pizza, you can afford to make scenery.
I get the cardboard. I get the double thickness corrugated cardboard for nothing at work. So
Elmer's glue is like $1 something at the store, bro. So
okay, so Bill says generally when playing Theater of the Mind, the DM has to be firmly in control. Your players needs to trust you, and he also says you are their eyes and ears. That's why I run such a narrative game. I'm used to playing Theater of the Mind in different styles. Okay,
and
so
there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's I mean, if you've got a grasp on that process, do it. I mean, that's, I just played a game of Cyberpunk and we used Theater of the Mind because there was a map, but it was just there to decorate the table, in my opinion.
And Theater of the Mind is something that you can practice while you're mowing the lawn, washing the dishes, driving to work. You can start rambling on. The players enter a room and this happens and that kind of thing. It consider it like RPG battle rapping. It's off the top of your head and you're just trying to come up with what happens next. And it's just practice. And you think of a cool idea and shit, I need to write that down in my phone or whatever. And you've got these little plot books and cool things that you can chuck in.
Yeah. No doubt.
Well, before we get off Theater of the Mind, I know Critical watches Critical Role. Didn't mean to say that twice, but it's been brought up. That 5e. Well, two things. That 5e is a lot closer to some of the original editions, where it's bringing role play back. It's bringing backstories back, and people really role playing and getting into their characters more than some of the other previous editions. And if you watch Critical Role, at least more than one episode, you'll see that a 4-hour session can be nothing but role play and a theater of the mind. There's no miniatures, no tabletop, nothing. And yes, it's a lot of actors. I understand they're very good at what they do. That's why people watch them. Right. And I know that you can't mimic that at your table because nobody's at that level. But you can try. You could try your best. But I'm saying the role play aspect. What I'm kind of getting at is 5e. 5e, what they play, they could be playing any edition. When it comes down to combat, okay, now they're playing 5e rules. Right. And I like the 5e rules. I love that you can go full role play with it. You can go Theater of the Mind with it. You can.
There's actually other channels. I can't remember what they were, but there's other channels where they actually use tables and miniatures and things like that. Like the guy who does Dwarven Forge. The guy who created the Dwarven Forge stuff, he runs a D&D session, and he uses everything. Miniatures, terrain, everything. There's nothing that you have that he doesn't have. You know what I'm saying? And there's nothing wrong. Like I use maps, I use miniatures, I use tiles, I don't use scenery unless I really have something specific to show and I have it already made. But you know, there's nothing with Critical Role specifically, right? Like those guys, they don't use any of that stuff because they just don't have the setup for it, right? Like the way they set their whole filming studio up is designed to you're looking right at.
It's not conducive to recording to have to redo the table out.
Right. You're literally the point of that is to watch the players do their magic, right? Like I watched an episode. Yes, I know.
Oh,
You got me.
Sorry, I
got
watched
me.
the show. Okay.
You got me. I watched an episode with Phil Lamar, and he, you know, Phil Lamar is voice actor for like a lot of characters on
Green Lantern. He's going to be at my Planet Comic Con.
Yep. And these guys were all dressed up, you know, in period proper clothing and everything. And that's the point of those shows, right? Is to look at those people and, you know, elaborate on the whole thing. And sure, some people can credit them for getting people into D&D and stuff like that. You know, it's they're the source of a lot of influx in Dungeons and Dragons. I don't think so. I think that, you know, they're helping, but I don't think that they were a source of it all, not even close. Because if you go into Dungeons and Dragons, right, like with that mentality, like I've watched every Critical Role episode, this is going to be awesome. You're going to be severely disappointed after your session. And your DM, no matter how fantastic, how many gold stars he's got on his belt, I mean, he could be the championship guy, right, Dungeon Master, but he's not going to compare to those guys, right? Because that isn't Dungeons and Dragons. It's a TV show with Dungeons and Dragons in it, in my opinion. Matter of fact, you know what? I'm going to go so far as to say change my mind.
I think...
go ahead.
Okay.
No, you go.
I think the success of Critical Role was a bit more of a perfect storm. So like, obviously they have marketing and stuff backing them, but the whole like gaming, like video PC gaming thing and things like Twitch and all that kind of stuff, that paved the way. So people who were already sort of interested, it made it interesting. If that sort of streaming popularity wasn't around, I think they would have found it way harder to make that transition, I guess, to success. And I think that does help. Maybe it doesn't help. Well, it's a bit hard to say, I guess. Maybe it does help new players come to the game or get their first look at it. But what Zero said is like what you see and what you experience on the table. For me, at least.
I mean, but do you really think? Let me be honest. Do you really think a new player is going to be like Critical Role? Like, do you think that they're gonna look up what is Dungeons and Dragons or Dungeons and Dragons starter set review, or you know what I'm saying? They're not gonna look up how to play Dungeons and Dragons or people playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, they might see us and be like, "Oh shit," and close the browser.
They may come across it, right? Like it may come up in their search because of the algorithm, right? Like you type in Dungeons and Dragons, right? Our shit's all the way at the bottom. Critical Role is all the way at the top. Because they have bajillion subscribers, their algorithm. Well, been using hashtags and shit since it started, right? Since the wave, and it's like Grim said. I think it was the perfect storm. They hit the market running at a time where it was just starting to pick up. You know,
let me ask. You said change your mind, so I want to ask you because I've never played a game with you, either as a DM, or a player.
Fox's video for Dungeons and Dragons Explained is number one. Just let you guys know.
When you watch Critical Role, what are you seeing that you say that's not Dungeons and Dragons, or that's not cool, that's not good, or that's not good because it's obviously they're actors, so it's probably good.
Let me rephrase it. It's not that it's not good. Because it's cool. It's entertainment, right? Like I can watch that. I can put it on in the background, and I don't even need to look at the screen, right? Because I know those are voice actors. I know they're gonna do their best bits because they're on camera, right?
Yeah.
Like they're not gonna be like, yeah, I'm not having a good day today, man. Shit, my wife is a bitch right now. No, they're not gonna do that because they need their publicity, right? They need that publicity. They need to be 100% of the time on the show. They're performers, they're actors, they're like circus folk, right? They're going to be performing. Anytime someone's watching them, they're dancing, because that's the only way they get further ahead, right? What I mean about Dungeons and Dragons is when you meet, right? Like when you get together, and I'm not saying this is everybody, so those of you watching and listening, please don't take this to heart. It's nothing personal to anybody. This is not a dig. But my experience of Dungeons and Dragons, right? You got a room full of dudes, generally. It's a room full of dudes. Somebody stinks, right? Because he didn't take a bath or something, right?
That's usually zero.
It's usually me.
Smells like popcorn and chicken.
Where is the popcorn?
Popcorn and tacos.
Listen.
In a bag.
Tacos in a popcorn container.
I don't have any popcorn right now, and it's a very painful subject, so I appreciate it if you guys can touch on my personal affairs. But no, so you've got pizza sitting at the end of the table. Everybody's got a 2-liter of pop. Somebody's got some cookies, and you're talking, right? You're interacting. You are role playing. Everybody's doing their characters. There's some people who are even doing voices, right? I've done it. I get into character. I've had a player who could not get out of freaking character, and it aggravated the hell out of me. It was like he played the Scottish dwarf all the time, and he was like, "Aye, laddie," all the time. It was like,
"Give me some of your popcorn."
And it was sad was every character he played, even if it wasn't a dwarf,
Scottish,
the same fucking. It was like, oh, dude. But whatever. I gave him credit for being creative, right? But that wasn't always the case. It wasn't always like that. And there were conversations that we had that you couldn't have in front of a camera. You can't talk about this stuff in front of half the things you say in Dungeons and Dragons, And I mean, when your girlfriend was there, or when the DM's girlfriend was there, or somebody's wife was there, you catered your conversation to that, right? So that you weren't being like, yeah, man, this bitch last night, man. Whoo, swear to God, let me tell you what you know
my wife.
You can't.
You played right? So your Dungeons and Dragons is catching up with your buddies about some shit that you can't talk about in front of your wife.
9 times out of 10, you were catching up, right? Like, because unless you guys were in high school and you were hanging out every day, you didn't see these cats. Like, I didn't see these cats for like 2 weeks sometimes. So literally, it's like I had to curtail a lot of conversations from like, yeah, man, last week I went to dinner and my wife started tripping about this thing, and I don't know what the hell it came. Okay. You know what I mean? All right, let's get back to the module. Let's get back to the adventure.
I got some homework for you.
Okay.
Try to, because you said change my mind. I mean, you gotta have a tiny like a snippet of homework. Look up Critical Role's early days when they're at home. They're sitting around as friends.
Yep.
They're voice actors, but they started playing this game as friends around the table. Never thought it would get where it was going to get.
Listen,
and they were doing just what you're doing, and they still swear and cuss and say,
and
I'm drawing dick pics on everything. They're still doing whatever they're doing.
I was going to point that out. They still swear. They do swear because they're adults. There's no kids there, so they can swear. And they have thousands of subscribers, so them swearing isn't going to affect their algorithm, right? At all.
Their cartoon is about to come out on Amazon Prime. If you have Amazon Prime,
that ticked me off.
And I'm just wondering.
I'm just saying.
I want to see the vulgar. If there's any kind of, they said it's adult theme. So I'm wondering what's all going to be in this cartoon.
I mean, it's not that I gotta have swearing or anything.
No. I mean, I'm just saying that
to me, that's a natural conversation, right? Unless they're a very religious person and they've sworn off of swearing, which I've known people. That's your thing. It's not my thing. That's totally respectable. But we swear like sailors most of the time, and we're doing a good job now curtailing that. But let's be real, that's not the conversation that happens. And like I said, I just feel like what they're doing, they started off doing what most people do. They play Dungeons and Dragons, right?
Yeah.
They just started recording it. They got on the wave, right? They caught it as it was coming, and now they're surfing the big kahuna. And that's cool. That's totally cool for them. I just don't think that it is beneficial for new people to see that and say, wow, that is Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Awesome.
This is, and we probably need to wrap this subject up, but my mother likes Critical Role. I got her into it. Like I said, she's my mother. I'm 47, so you know how old she is.
20 years older.
She loves Critical Role. I mean, I'm actually 1 week behind. She's on par.
Does she
Right,
like Matt
and-
Mercer?
and-
Is it because she likes Matt Mercer?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
'Cause
but I'll tell you what.
everybody likes
Laura
Matt
Bailey's a
Mercer.
hottie. I'm just gonna set that out there. Laura
Yeah.
Bailey's a hottie.
What?
But I'll tell
Matt
you what.
Mercer's kinda hot,
She
no homo, I'm
she
just saying.
plays at
Yeah,
at my table and loves to play, and she knows it's not the same. I'm not Matt
But
Mercer.
Is it because of
But,
that show that she plays your game, or is
No,
it
no, no.
because you introduced her to it and she had found it after?
She. Let's see. I'm trying to think of when she started playing with us. I think it was after Critical Role.
After, so she saw
Yeah.
Critical Role
You
and
mean
said,
one?
"I want to do this."
And then
Okay.
this is the big thing, and she still wants to do it after I've DM'd because we have all that stuff that you're talking about where everybody's doing this and that and talking about this and on their phone and getting drinks and we're stopping to get pizza breaks and doing this and that's normal stuff, but I do try to my best Matt Mercer impression as far as I like to run that kind of explain everything that's going on, and I'm not even 50% where he's at as far as how he can explain details. But
Yeah, but he's been playing for really. He's like Stats and Grim. They've been playing for a really long time.
Stats
Yeah,
and
like,
Grims would knock me out the park. I mean,
yeah, we've been playing for a long
especially
time.
if you theater of the mind, I'm sure they can probably describe a gnat's ass better than I could.
You know what's funny is because when I started DMing for my current group, I was doing that, a lot of theater of the mind description. Like I was describing everything, and I had people like, I had a buddy of mine. He was like, wait a minute. He was literally writing down these descriptions. I was like, what are you doing, dude? He's like, I'm writing down what you said. I'm like, dude, I'm just describing the doorway. He's like, yeah, but that might be important later. I'm like, oh my god. So I had to tone it down because I was like, no. And then I started using maps. So I was like, I don't need to describe every single thing.
And he's still writing stuff down.
You know, I had him, and he slowed down a little bit, but it was just one of those things. You know what I mean? It's just one of those.
Hey,
like I
the
said,
negative thing with maps, and like this is for you, Grim, too. Like if you're starting to make your own terrain and stuff. If you do make something that's a little bit special, you're not gonna be able to use it in general.
I'm trying to keep that to a minimum.
Yeah, because I mean, I've got stuff that's kind of special, and I'll just put it out because it kind of fits, and I make my little build, and they'll go. I'm going up to that thing on the wall right there and checking it out. I'm like, what thing? What are you talking about? And I'm looking at it. I'm like, that shit ain't there, man. I said, that's just part of the terrain. I'm sorry, it's not there.
That's why. No matter what I use, I always describe the room.
Mhm.
Always. It doesn't matter what you're seeing on the map. I describe the room. When it comes to combat, that's when I say this is terrain, this is difficult terrain, this is blocking terrain. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I do. But otherwise, I'll describe everything first because I don't want the players to see something and go, "Oh, I'm going to use those trees there to," and like those aren't there because I forgot to erase them. Whoops.
Look,
You know what I'm saying? So
with
yeah, that's.
just
I mean, he's not wrong, Grim. He's not wrong. I mean, I would do your best to just create as generic tiles as possible, like you've been doing, and utilize those. You can do different shapes and things like that, but utilize those for the dungeons because they're gonna benefit from. I mean, that's a really okay. The map is great because it lets you set everything up and have them visually connected immediately. But what you're gonna benefit from is the description, right? Like what they're gonna get from you is everything there before they put the minis down. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For
I
sure.
don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, that's basically been my plan, I guess. So I'm making a bunch of generic tiles, and I mean, at the moment, the only people that I'll be playing with in person are the kids, basically. So I don't have to go too elaborate with, and I could just have an empty room tile and just have like bookcases and treasure chests and that kind of thing. But then when I do go to like specialty stuff, like it'll just be the very one-off thing that'll be purpose built to fix something.
Like a boss room or something.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you can still make a lot of that stuff modular. Like you just have the room tile, bang, and then just stuff you can put on top. Like I don't want to build like a big set piece that's for one thing. I'd rather like break it up as best I can. So it'll just be trial and error and see how I go with it. But my finish up thing for the whole Critical Role thing, because I'll sort of get everyone's point. I don't watch it because I really don't find watching streams of people play D&D entertaining to me. It does nothing for me unless they're playing. Like I've watched a couple where they're playing like through like the Tomb of Elemental Evil, like the old school stuff that I really like. And even then, I'm just like, I would rather just play myself.
Yeah.
So
I don't.
Daniel, real
I've
quick,
tried to. Yeah.
Daniel says that, he disagrees with me, and he thinks that Critical Role does bring people into the game, as does Stats. Stats says the same thing. He does believe that. I'm gonna say, and I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just saying because I did say change my mind. Show me the stats. Show me the money that says Critical Role is responsible somehow physically for getting people into Dungeons and Dragons. Now, you, Daniel, may be a specific case where you watched the show and said, you know what, I want to give it a shot. Same thing with Almighty. You might have been the same way. You might have said, you know what, it's kind of cool. I'm going to give it a shot. Sure. I'm not saying that it's never happened because that's ridiculous. There is no such thing as never or ever or always, right?
Yeah.
There's a possibility. Cujo just showed me that his mom watched it and she said, I like this. I want to do this. Boom. There you go. Right. But I don't believe that I don't believe that they're a responsible majority of people of traffic coming into Dungeons and Dragons. I don't believe that. That's just me. I'm not saying anybody's wrong. Okay. And I'm not arguing. I'm just saying that for me, I fail to believe that they are the source of a lot of traffic in Dungeons and Dragons.
I can't prove it, but something that would help conspiracy type back it is that D&D is putting out that Wildmount book in official D&D content. Probably says the D&D's probably done some research saying
no stats, no mic drop, bro. No mic drop. you don't get to drop the mic, cuz
I just showed you the money.
yes, they did make a deal, and I give them credit for that. That's actually pretty cool. That's one thing I do like about that. They did create this whole world, and they got the deal to make this book. That's pretty cool. That's some. But
that's saying D&D saying that they know that there's a lot of people that have came from the show.
Well, that could just be that. Yeah, I mean that could be Wizards of the Coast saying, "Hey, a lot of people are watching this right now. Let's get in on that." Okay, that's what that could be. You know what I'm saying? Like if I'm a guy at Wizards of the Coast, right, and I'm writing books, and then I go, online, I'm going to look up D&D on YouTube or something, whatever, right? I type in, let's look up D&D. These guys come up. All right, I'm going to check it out, right? And I go to my boss, say, hey, you know what? I watched this show last night. It's called, We Roll Dice or whatever the F it's called, They do a pretty cool show. They're playing Dungeons and Dragons, man. They're talking about it. CEO is going to be like, how can we make money off of this, right? Because the company's all about staying alive and making money. So sure, they're going to touch with these guys.
That's what I'm saying is that they're... they're super popular, but it's bringing people into the game, and D&D sees it as bringing people into the game. So hey, let's bring their world into and say, hey, we're making this official. They're in D&D Beyond, full fledged. They got a whole campaign setting.
All right,
they're saying,
but Wizards didn't really have a very profit year.
Shut up, Siri.
Yeah, like. Last time they made a lot of money. Last time Watson made a lot of money was when they had Pokemon, when they had the rights to Pokemon for the cards. Mm-hmm. That's the last time they made a lot of money. And Chris Perkins even said that. Yeah. Back when Pokemon was the earliest basis sets. Chris Perkins says, the last time we made this much money was when we had the rights to Pokemon.
Yeah, because they weren't doing too hot before. I mean,
no.
But see, things like Stranger Things, so their audience would be a lot more than just players interested in D&D. Mm-hmm. To get to Critical Role, you already are looking for something along that line. So maybe Critical Role helps keep people engaged in the hobby. So whatever brought in there, maybe it helps retain people.
I tell you what, I watch it.
Stats, that's a mic drop right there. He can drop his mic because that's the point right there. They may help keep it going, but I don't think they got it going. And I know a lot of people. Matter of fact, that last group I was just talking about from my job, they started playing Dungeons and Dragons because of Stranger Things. They were watching Stranger. This is word for mouth. Did you see Stranger Things? No, I haven't watched it yet. Oh, dude, they play Dungeons and Dragons. I'm like, okay, cool. I watched the show and I was like, they're not really playing Dungeons and Dragons, but it is whatever. It is.
My
I
kids,
think that my son was like, I want to play Dungeons and Dragons. Boom. Stranger Things.
mind blown.
I'm just saying.
Hey,
here, look.
my boys are 18 and 16, and they constantly send me pictures. Hey, Dad, send me a picture of all your stuff. I'm like, why? What you know all everything I got. I know, but I want to show some people. I want to show you some friends.
Yeah.
We're talking about Dungeons and Dragons. I want to show them. Hey, mic drop. Look at this. Look at my dad's got.
Your stuff.
Hey, because I don't live with my dad no more. He can afford this.
So they're all like,
rich. My dad's
they're like,
rich.
Dad, let's go. We're going to Dad's house. Come on, we're gonna play some D&D.
You know what it is?
Hey, they're like, send me that fog machine pic. You know
You know what it is? It's that they're playing. Their friends are like, oh yeah, we're starting to play Dungeons and Dragons, and we've got a couple characters.
That's what it
they're
is.
Like, they're like, that's not D&D.
Yeah, that's not my
This
D&D.
is
They're gonna rock up to a theater of the mind game and be like, "Oh, I guess I got to imagine this shit myself."
Oh,
Say,
Where's all the trees? Where's all the
Imagine
trees?
you were at Cujo's
That's
house
cute.
and you had all this fog machine and you had these cool caves. You know, use your theater of the mind. Come on, pretend you've been to Joe's house before. You've seen all this stuff.
They couldn't come. They couldn't come here. They'd be like, "Oh, can I just go to bed?"
Can we go back to America?
Okay, so look.
What's the next subject?
So we were talking about running a Dungeons and Dragons game. Okay, so now I've done this. I didn't know what it was called. I think that's just a new term they use for it now. But running a session 0, I never knew that's what it was called. Right? Like I that's just a thing.
It helps.
Okay, but I always ran. For me, it was like I never called it a session. I never called it a session 0. None of that. I was just like, all right. It was like a day at my buddy's house, and like somebody would mention, "Hey, let's play Dungeons and Dragons," and I was like, "All right, who wants to play for real? Right? Raise your hands." And, okay, then the next time we meet, we'll build characters, right? And that's session 0, right? So we get together, I'd help them all build their characters, and I'd take my turn with each of them, so that I was at least aware of what they were doing and what they were building and what they were putting into their characters, and I could help them. Like, okay, if you're making a fighter, don't pick thieving feats or thieving skills. Stick with your fighter. You know what I mean? Let the thief do what he does. So I mean, I guess I that's an subconscious session 0 for me. I think it's valuable. I do think it is an important thing to do. Because it gives you and your players of time to set boundaries and understanding of how you plan on running a session of your games, and what they're expecting from you as players and what you're expecting from them as a dungeon master. I mean, that's my take on it.
Well,
I'm sure we'll elaborate, but go ahead.
RollStats just said on something from previous real fast. If you guys seriously think that Hasbro/Critical Role would invest in this setting without doing market research, without knowing the value, you have no idea how corporate America works.
Well, just so you know, Stats, I actually used to do market research, and I actually ran focus groups. So I do know how corporate America works. And yes, I understand that they did research.
What color is the sky in your world?
Whatever color I say it is, goddammit.
Blue.
So I've done market research, bro. I mean, I'm just saying. Mm-hmm. I just don't think that they're that crucial in getting people in. I think that they're crucial in keeping people in. But that's just me.
So okay. So like
anyway.
me, like on all the books and stuff that I have, I barely put any money in it because of my work. I get gift cards through my health insurance. Ooh, pretty lights.
Yeah, don't tell those secrets out, man. Stop sharing secrets.
Well, but that's how I'm able to afford the books and stuff.
Okay.
So I really don't have a lot of money. So that's why I try to go on the budget, right?
Right.
So
talking about session 0 though.
Yep, I'm going to go back to that. Sorry. Ooh, more lights.
That's for the beholder.
Oh, the Dwarven Forge?
No, for our tabletop Dungeoneers beholder.
Oh, I can't wait to see it. So how I ran my session 0, because we just Facebook message each other. Like I've made a group and they're like, okay, and I gave them the pitch of my campaign. And so they like, okay, what are you allowing and stuff? And I'm like, okay, if I have access to it, if I have,
Did you tell them that how many dragons are in your campaign?
no, but I did release the Dragon Dagger now
Because I mean, I know
to the new player that just came out.
you are playing a serious dragon campaign, and I would want to like make sure I made a player that was really good to fight some high level dragons. And dragons like every day. There's a dragon on top of me.
No, that was the last step. That was the last group. That was my last group.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Wake up with a dragon head in his bed.
It's not a horse head, it's a dragon head. The Godfather.
Well, I just remember like a lot of dragons in your last campaign.
So, anyway, you're session 0.
Yeah, so how I did my
pitch, right? You threw the pitch at them.
I threw the pitch out, and they just started asking me questions on it. Like a cleric that can't heal. Yes, like a cleric that can't heal. That's right.
Why would they ask that?
What?
A cleric that can't heal.
No, that's what RollStats said.
Oh,
Like a cleric
okay.
that can't heal. We were talking about the dragons, and
Oh, yeah, yes.
We're talking about your cleric that has no healing abilities whatsoever. A
Yeah, if you're-
reverse
if you're-
cleric.
If you're
He's a
listening,
holy
if you're listening, anybody, you haven't heard this before. There is a cleric that's out there somewhere. He can't heal. He does forge. He is a dwarf, so basically he's a dwarf that forges. I don't know why he calls him a cleric. But
Well, no, he can heal. He just chooses not to.
I choose not to.
he chooses not to prepare any healing
It's that cleric.
spells.
Yes. Thank
He's
you.
a reverse healer. I want to cause serious wounds.
I'm a
So he's-
damaged cleric.
So I think Zero said it best. He's a fighter,
But not a very good fighter.
but not a very good.
We'll find out whenever we get to play. So,
A bad fighter with a religious conscience.
should I do this? This is what my gun would do. Oh, heck.
Okay, get back to your Zero.
Okay.
Session 0.
So they was asking me questions. I was asking them, and they're like, "Okay, what are you allowing?" I'm like, "Anything I can have access to. If I got the physical book, I'll allow it."
Okay.
All
Is that
right.
wrong?
You what?
No, you're the DM.
Yeah. Up
No,
to you.
it's wait. Did you just ask me if you were wrong?
Yeah, you're the DM.
Do what you want. Listen,
You know,
If you're
Listen.
comfortable with the material, you lay out whatever you want.
Absolutely. I commend you for that, man. That's a lot of research and a lot of homework to keep.
He's
doing.
not used to having power.
Yeah,
No, I'm not.
Definitely, because he's letting it rip.
ow, it hurts.
I mean, listen, that's totally cool. I dig that, man. I mean, if you're comfortable with allowing that, then and you set your boundaries. That's good. You set your boundaries. You said if it's in a book that's officially published, right? I'm assuming that's what you meant.
Yep.
Then you're good to go. And I'm a firm believer personally that not all the books are correct. And I'm not saying it in the sense that they made grammatical errors or anything like that or numeric errors. I'm just saying that not every race and class that they put in every single book is beneficial to the campaign.
Some suck. And that's just the way it is.
Some just break the game, because somebody got stat happy or whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? But nonetheless, that's your prerogative and that's cool. It's like I said, that's the point of session 0, right? You set your boundaries and expectations first.
Like the Warforge. I wouldn't use any Warforge in any campaign.
Hate.
Just so you know. It's a broken class. I don't care if it's published.
What does that say? Psycho monitoring service?
Stat says that he's an atheist cleric. Okay.
My former boss would be proud.
He was just raised in a religious family and he's rebelling.
Yeah.
Ah, screw this.
But yeah, so anyway, so you sold them the pitch. You said that they could use whatever they had as long as it was in a book and you could have access to it.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else?
We met up. Like when we did meet up, we continued we spent about an hour of the first meeting, finishing the session 0, polishing off the characters and stuff. Then we started the campaign.
Okay.
But that's how I did my session 0 on that one.
What about you, Cucho?
I I've never had an official session 0. I mean, I usually talk to the players over the phone unless they're sitting in front of me, and we build their characters out or help them build their characters out. I'm kind of like Crit as far as if it's on D&D Beyond, I have it fully. I have all the stats for it. I'll allow it depending if it's somebody snoring. I hear snoring.
That's my missus.
I can't go on. I can't do this. And we're back. All right. I thought one of you fell asleep. I'm not sure. I'm like,
I thought Zero fell asleep, to be honest.
Zero closed his eyes for a minute. I'm like, is he snoring? Like, is he sitting up? Like, go ahead, Joe. Cujo. I felt.
Okay,
I am so tired, dude. Just go ahead. I can't talk anymore.
Bill says, "Ha ha ha! You guys put her to sleep."
Oh God.
Oh man.
But yeah, I have not done a session 0. I mean, I kind of do, but it's like I said, it's
You didn't show.
yeah, it's like over the phone. And it's, with my boys, we'll go over like what they want to play, and I'll help them flesh their characters out, and like I try to help them out to think like a little bit into the future. Like, what do you want to have fun with? What they'll say. If they're really new, they really need a lot of help. They're like, well, I want to be a spellcaster. I'm like, okay, well, do you want to be a full-fledged? Do you feel like yourself like a Gandalf, like a full-fledged? I'm a wizard, or do you want to pick up a sword and fight? And what do you see yourself doing? What kind of character do you want? What kind of character do you feel like? Man, if I was in a battle, I'd want to do this, or maybe if we were in I want to be that guy that's really smooth talker and is going to get us out of trouble and all that stuff, that I can point him in another direction. So it's not technically like I get everybody together for a session 0 that's in the campaign, but I pretty much help everybody flesh their characters out. I don't really care what they pick. I'll try to be the good DM and try to fit everybody in, storyline wise and whatnot.
So, question.
Thanks, James. I appreciate it.
How do you? Okay, like I had a player that came in last session at the last minute. He wanted to play, first time player, and my other 2 players was like, okay, you know what? Let's help you out. JD, you DM real fast, and we'll play along, and we'll help him out. Do you guys allow that? Because I allowed it. I'm like, you know what? Go for it. And I was asking him, what do you want to play? He goes, I want to play a fighter. I'm like, okay, so I got 2 fighters and a wizard, no healer.
So, okay.
Oh yeah, I let them play whatever they want.
Yeah, that's what I said. Like,
I mean, okay, I'm gonna get back to my subject. What about you, Graham? How do you handle your session 0 if you do it?
I'm a big believer in session 0s. Like, it's not always practical to get everyone together to do that one big long session and then do a next gaming session. But if I can, I do, and for a couple of reasons. So AD&D, like every single character class has one of these, which is this is the Complete Thief's Handbook, and it's this thick. So it has what they called back in those days kits. So instead of just playing a run-of-the-mill thief, they'll be like specialist thieves with specialist abilities. And I have every single one except for the druids one. And players know that I have the book, so they want to go through and find some cool variation. That takes time. So if you've got 4 or 5 players, and even more so if they're new to the game, character creation can take ages. So I like session 0 for the time to get everyone to create their characters and get that stuff organized. But session 0 is also, I like to manage the expectations of the players. So like I might have like 10 sort of house rule things I have written down. Like I might let players have maximum hit points at level 1 just because in AD&D it's so damn tough. Like especially if you're a mage, you get 1d4 hit points. 1 hit point sucks, no matter what you're playing, let alone weak.
Yeah.
And no weapons and that kind of thing. So I like to do things like that and sort of let players know this is how I'm going to DM. If we're playing and someone's disputing a ruling that I've made, we don't want to spend all night dwelling on it, interrupting the flow of the game. If we can't decide quickly and promptly, I'm just going to make a ruling, and then when that session's finished, we can discuss it for future sessions and that kind of thing. So I just want players to know that, like, I will listen to what they say, but in the same thing, I'm getting the DM stick out. Like, I'm not going to be dictated to just because I run like Minotaurs a certain way, and you've read the monster manual and go, oh, they don't do that. Well, this is the way I do it, and I run my own homebrew world, so things aren't always the same. And I don't like player characters that are. I don't have like Drow and Tieflings and Dragonborn and all that sort of thing. I like the more traditional sort of fantasy thing, and those races
like Water Boy, other Water Boy.
So Bill said
Water Boy with like gold. Water Boy with like gold bucket trim or something. Or
yeah.
So Bill says. Okay, serious question about session 0. I usually have session 0 with each individual player. In other words, we do one-on-one scenarios separately, establishing their characters. Then the whole party comes together. Have you guys ever done something like that? How do you bring the party together?
I've done exactly that, and what I've done is almost ran like a one-on-one, like a one-shot. So if we have like an hour, 2 hours to get their player character together, I might run through a quick like 2-hour thing that they end up at the tavern or at the city, and each player ends up in the same location, and then bang, you all find yourself in the city because of this, that, and the other. You know, they know how they got there, and now we're kicking off all together. Like something's brought you guys together. You've joined an adventurers guild, or you all hate this same person that's been a problem for the town. And it's cool because if you do those little one-on-one sessions, little things that pop up, and that they're things that you can bring up later. 3, 4, 5 sessions later, something comes up, and then the player's like, "Oh, holy shit! Like I ran into that dude on the way to like the capital and that kind of thing." So just gives you a bit more depth, I guess.
So for me, to answer Bill's question, yes, I've done the exact same thing, Bill. I've built characters individually with players. I've built them together as a group. I find that together as a group is a lot harder because you're trying to focus on more people, and there's a lot of stuff to do, whether it's old school AD&D or 3rd edition or 4th edition. There's a lot of stuff to cover in one session. To do it with a lot of people is just really hard, plus timing and everything and schedules. So generally, if I got a time with someone, I'll say, all right, let's get your character going, you know what I'm saying, and we'll do backgrounds and we'll do stuff like that. And I usually try to have the characters put together for the first session, so that when we first sit down and roll dice, they're done. The characters are done. The players are familiar with the characters. They know. Now, as far as classes and stuff like that goes, I commend you, Cujo and Crit, for doing what you do. I choose not to do that. I keep the races and classes simple, only because I feel like 4th edition really screwed up when they started adding Dragonborn and things like that, because when you have a monster in your group, unless the group is consisted of monsters, you know, like you've got an evil campaign going, and, you know, I've run those, and it's all monsters or real weird races and stuff like that. Like, I've accepted tieflings just as what they are. I can see them being part of the story. Same thing with half-orcs. I can see half-orcs being part of the stories. But anything beyond that is just too far-fetched. And it's like when you have things like that, you lose the mystique of what that comes from, right? So you have a red dragonborn wizard. Now red dragons are not a mystique. They're not yeah, you can run them. You know, there's still going to be a challenge. There's still going to be a red dragon, but the mystique is gone because you're looking at one every day. You know what I'm saying? Like the players are like, oh.
Do you know the history of Dragonborn in
Yeah.
5th edition?
Which history?
Well, I know the history of them from 4th edition, which is where they
Yeah,
came
5th
from.
edition's changed. They were slaves of the dragons, and they
in a
hate
different
dragons.
realm.
It's still, my point being, like when you use fantastical creatures as classes or as players, you know,
They're actually not that overpowered, and they actually suck as far as.
no, it's
The
not.
breath weapon
It's not
sucks.
it's not about power level. It's about, like I said, it takes away the mystique of the game, right? Like it takes away some of that monster mystique, right? Like especially for new players, when they've encountered the monster for the first time, it's that feeling, you know. Grim, you know what I'm talking about, man. You know, it's that first time they encounter a troll, you know, or they encounter a young dragon. That first time, and you know, unless you're critical, you know, you're not throwing dragons out every chance you get. You know what I'm saying? You know, those are you hold those. You know what I'm saying? Those are very important encounters in the game. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not something you just willy nilly pop, dragon. You know what I'm saying? That's unless you're playing Dragonlance and that's part of your campaign. But generally, for me, those kinds of creatures are fantastical for a reason. You know what I'm saying? So generally, like I said, when it comes to session 0, I kind of try to keep people like I had a dwarf. I had a player create a dwarf, and he was a Duergar, you know, from Forgotten Realms. And I was like, man, we're stretching it. You know what I'm saying? Like that is really stretching it for me because that race literally has a history of just what they are. To me, they're monsters. You know what I mean? Because
every other race hates them. Same with like the Forgotten Realms, but the drow. Like drows are cool as hell. You're not playing
they're very
one.
cool, and I had players like, oh, I want to play a drow, and I'm like, yeah, look, Drizzt Do'Urden is really cool. He's great in the novels. Someone created that character, and it became a novelization, right? I get it. It's totally cool. But it's gonna be really difficult for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, really, really hard because and yes, you're a DM. You can change everything. You can change the entire dynamic of the world. You can make it so that Drow and Duergar are heroes in the world. You know what I mean? My point being
Yeah, I mean, I was about to say that.
I try to keep it simple. Plus, when you have that much involved in a race, I find that players generally don't tend to understand that. Like not all, don't quote me in saying all. I'm just saying some have a hard time fathoming the entirety of that race. They just think it's cool, and they look at the stat boosts and like, oh, I want to get that because that guy's got like a +2 this, +2 that, +2 that. But it's like, yeah, but dude, there's a lot that goes into that class and that race.
And you can't walk around all these cities and stuff when you're drow. Literally everyone that sees you wants to kill you. They might have a tough time of it because drow are tough.
In Grimm's campaign, they do.
No, listen.
In Zero's campaign, they do.
You're absolutely right.
Now, if you're in a different world,
it can be changed.
Shut up, Alexa.
I mean, you can totally change it. You know, I just like I said, I feel that it's going to be hard enough already for new players to play a dwarf, right? Like, it's going to be difficult enough. They're not going to be used to it. There's things that they're going to have to get used to and learn and whatever. And then for them to have to do that, it's just I don't know. I mean, if it really comes down to it, they have a lot of history and knowledge about the character and the class and the race. I might let them stretch their role playing muscles a little bit. You know, I've done it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying it's totally impossible. I'm just saying I try to steer away from it.
If someone runs a game like that, I would play in it, but I will never ever. That's not how I run D&D. And that's and again, that's just going to be personal preference. There is no right or wrong.
Right. Yeah.
That's just because it's your world, your setting, the way you feel it. That's way like when you say this race has a history of boom, you stop right there.
Okay. Well,
that's because your history. That's your books that you've learned. That's your history of your setting that you're playing in. Every single DM setting is different. Even if they're using D&D Forgotten Realms, it's however they want to see it.
You're totally
and every edition changes. That's why I said, do you know the 5th edition's rules on Dragonborn and where they came from?
I thought they were slaves in 4th edition too, but I thought that
they may have.
They may have. They didn't come in 4th edition.
Yes. Yeah, they did.
They're on the player's handbook, motherfucker. Don't tell me.
Well, I know the gnomes.
Check yourself.
Okay,
but they do hate dragons. Yeah,
it wasn't a playable race.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it was.
Gnomes was the playable race in 4th edition. I thought they were monsters.
Wait, what did you say? Yeah.
Gnomes was a
Gnomes have
race.
been playable. Gnomes have been a playable race since 3.
Really?
Second as well too.
Yeah,
So,
gnomes have been. I'm talking Dragonborn. Dragonborn came in 4th edition. That was the new race in 4th edition. Dragonborn and Tieflings.
Yeah.
I mean, they were in 3.5, but they weren't playable races in 3.5.
I just think as a DM, if you allow those sort of things, you just got to be able to account for it in your world. And if you have all the material and stuff, you're probably fine. But see, I don't like technology in my worlds either. I don't have like black powder weapons. I don't have like that Eberron type, all that sort of stuff. That's just
I've
the stuff I run.
And if I played in your game, I would say, okay, what's in your setting? What's going on? If you said, hey, these races don't exist as playable races, I'd be like, cool. I mean,
Right.
I totally understand it.
So anyway, I mean, my point being, like, for session 0, that's what I try to do. I try to help the players design the character that they're going to want to look at after so many levels, right? Because I do the same thing you guys do. I said, what do you guys see yourself doing at, like, 15th level when you're standing on the hilltop getting ready to face an army of orcs? What's your character look like? What's he doing? You know, what is he wearing? Is he fighting? Is he casting a spell? You know, it's always that type of stuff, especially for new players. You know, that's what I do with new players. And then my first gaming session, you know, like in session 0 is also where I say, hey, I don't use these races as playable characters. I don't do this. I do that. Like for hit points, everybody has maximum hit points all the time. I don't ever roll for hit points. I don't do that because I don't care. That's not important to me. Monsters are going to have max hit points too, so don't even think it's a threat. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't even matter to me. You know, the only thing that matters is your con bonus, right? So if you got a +2 to con, then your hit points are going to be different than the guy next to you. Right?
And see, I wouldn't do that. I get it. No, I give him max hit points at level 1, and then I make him roll all the other ones.
I just give it to him all the time because it doesn't matter to me. It really does. Because here's the thing: I don't care how powerful the character or the player thinks their character is. As a GM, there's nothing.
The chihuahuas of D&D.
You know what I mean? You have everything at your disposal. So to me, I'm going to throw enough, and not to punish them. I'm not punishing them in any little bit. What I'm saying is, I'm going to be throwing enough at them that the hit points, I mean, you know, having maximum hit points isn't going to matter. They're still going to lose hit points.
I think that's a good thing.
You know,
going back to our early discussion about new DMs, is like learning how to build encounters. Like obviously that comes to you as long, but you can match your encounters.
I was telling somebody not too long ago, I think I was talking to Hate a while back, and we were talking about encounters. He's like, what would you do? Because I guess this was a situation that popped up in 5th edition. He was like, what would you do if someone turned the entire party into Tyrannosaurus Rexes and ruined your module? And I was like, what? How would they ruin it, right? And how would that even happen? You know, they summon a fairy or a fae or something, and the fae changes everybody to T-Rexes, and then they trounce your dungeon. I'm like, well, first of all, Tyrannosaurus Rexes can't carry anything. They can't hold anything, right? Because they got their little hands, right? Now,
how high is the ceiling
in a dungeon, right? Like, so there's no way. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it was like, all right, well, the next room has a tight drawbridge, you know, a one-person wide bridge that they have to cross, and it's already falling apart. So now, how much does a Tyrannosaurus weigh? Well, guess what? It can't swim, so there's water underneath it. Now, how powerful are T-Rexes?
Or lava.
You see what I'm saying? Like, you have that ability to do that, you know? So there's no real... The only time someone really wrecks the game is... I find players that do that are sneaky players, and by the time they've done it, you don't realize it till it's over. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you're the DM. You're literally God. Nothing the players do, you can't overcome. Like,
yeah. I mean,
one of my players...
I'm sorry. Let me finish my point. As my session 0... that's what I do. I set the boundaries for the players, and then I ask them what their expectations are from the DM, right? And I let them know if I can give that to them or not, right? Because some players like, well, I want it to be like an anime, right? Like, I'm going to make an anime style character that can do high jumps and stuff like that. Well, there's nothing in the rules that can do that. So we're going to either have to figure out a compromise, or you're probably going to have to find a different game, because this isn't an anime. You know what I'm saying? Like, this isn't Big Eyes Small Mouth.
Yeah.
That's a completely different game. And if you want to play that, he's like, well, I want a mech. Okay, well, mechs are in this game. We're not playing that game. If you want to do that, that's totally fine. Here you go. You know, so I set those boundaries as that. And then the first session is usually getting the players to meet up. I always ask the players in session 0, do you guys want to know each other, or do you want to meet each other, right? Because that determines the first game.
Or
right?
do you want to be related?
Right. Do you how closely connected are you guys? Some players will be like, oh, me and you will know each other, and then other players will be like, no, I'm from these northern mountains, so I don't think I would know anybody. Okay, cool. And then my first gaming session is getting the players to the town or adventure hook, right? Getting them together so that they can get to the hook. That's the first game. So that's my session 0. And now you guys can.
I think all of that is pretty well my approach too. Character creation, set the expectations for the players and the DM. Everyone has an understanding, and it makes it smoother for subsequent sessions. That's
absolutely.
T-Rexes make everything better.
When you say run, you mean make it better, right?
Or you just use an undead one like I do.
And just take out the whole party, take out that rogue.
You get really scared that you might kill everybody.
He says, narcissism says when you say ruin, you mean make better, right? Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I mean. I totally make it better.
And if players get cocky, you can bust out a deck of many things. They can draw a few cards and then see where they end up. Yeah.
I'm native.
It's so good.
I've never used the deck of many.
Oh man, I've seen some amazing results. Like,
I gotta get one.
I'll tell you what. Like one of my players got from the deck of many things is a magical item, and it ended up being that fortress of, I don't know, it's some kind of fortress. She can just throw a piece of steel out, and all of a sudden a fortress appears. Well, people can metagame that, and you throw it on top of a big bad enemy, and it does do a lot of damage. But I told them I scare them away from using it as a weapon by, I say every wall, and this is in the rules, every wall, roof, and floor has a hit point value, and it can never be healed. So yeah, you can use it to do damage, but I'm going to be calculating that, and I'm going to be noting it down. How much hit points does your floor have?
Right.
And it's, and they don't do it at all. They don't want to ruin that fortress.
Well, I had a group.
Deck of many pains.
I had a group a while back, and these guys they prepared, right? Like they had spells like the sorcerer. The sorcerer has very limited spells, right?
Mm-hmm.
He picked a spell. I swear to God, I was like, "Why did you pick that?" And then I didn't realize until like third session. I was like, "Oh, you motherfucker! Nice." He picked a spell that basically created a shelter, like a hut, like a cabin, and it looked like a tiny little hut, but inside it was like comfortable enough for everybody to sleep. They had a fireplace. They had a hearth. You know what I'm saying? Like I can't remember what the spell was.
It's not Liam's tiny hut, is it?
Yes,
I think it is.
Yes, Liam's tiny hut. And I was like, the wizard was like, you're gonna waste your spell slot on that? And he was like, yeah. The
wizard should have did that.
They used it all the time. All the time. Even to the point like they were being harassed by a white dragon. Yay, white dragon. And the dragon couldn't get into the hut because it doesn't use a lot of magic, right? White dragons don't use magic really too much. But she basically used her breath weapon.
Yes, Bill.
She used her breath weapon to put a giant cube of ice around the hut. Like she froze them inside the hut. You know what I'm saying? But then he was like, all right, well, I just dispel the hut and we use fireball because he had fireball.
Yeah.
I was like, these motherfuckers. I was like, damn, that's pretty good, dude. Like that's good. Like they were prepared. And
Liam's tiny hut's used in Critical Role all the time. Hint.
Yeah.
So you know.
Well, is it?
I hate it now. I hate it.
Right?
Just so you know, that's where they got it, buddy.
No.
Oh,
this was before Critical Role. This was before any of that.
Okay, I'll give you that. I was about to drop my mic, but
no, this was before.
I'll put it back on.
You gotta pick it back up, son.
And yes, Bill. I don't write it down, but I am scaring the shit out of them so that they don't use it as a weapon.
I think and I'll have to double check because they made so much crap for second edition that the deck of many things got reprinted a couple of times, and they refined and edited stuff. And I think that they say in somewhere, like that one with the fortress, you cannot use it as an offensive thing to like crush enemies and all that kind of stuff. So they just don't allow players to do that. If you throw that on top of somebody, it just doesn't work.
Boom, mic drop.
So
It'd be like, it's like 12d6 damage or something, you know.
yeah, but I played with a player who drew 3 cards and rolled, and our DM wasn't really experienced. He didn't set up the cards, so he just made him roll on the table. He drew 3 stars, which was like +2 to your primary ability. So this dude's fighter was already like 16, so he's like now he's got like 22 strength, like God's strength, and just like, oh, I'm bench pressing this horse and cart, and I'm smashing through every door. And we went into a dungeon, and he's just like, oh, I'm just going to kick the door in, and the DM's like, you can't have that. And he's just like, they did not make this door thinking someone with 22 strength was like coming through here. It was so ridiculous and so lucky, but other guys are losing limbs. They're cursed. They lose half their levels permanently. They're getting chased by this ancient demon. There's a white after him, and this dude 3 stars. It was a miracle.
Well, in my campaign, they drew like 3 players drew like at least 4 cards each.
Oh man, I've drawn from the deck once, and I drew 2 cards, and that's it.
It was so awesome because 2 of them, they got great stuff and like maybe 1 drawback, or I think the other one got 1 drawback, but then the other one, I told the other players, I said, you see him vanish from existence. They were like, they're like, what happened? And then he's like, where'd I go? Where'd I go? I said, well, you're just in like this little bubble, and you're in like this, you don't know where you're at, and you're just there. You're like, what can I do? I said, you have a wish spell? I mean, you're not getting out of that, buddy. You're dead. You're gone. You're just gone.
Hey, Cujo, what do you think of these?
What's that?
My deck of mini.
Oh, you've done an actual physical prop. It's cool to have the actual physical prop and
made
to draw the cards.
I've got the animated, the ones from the deck of many things.
Yeah,
the animated spells.
Yeah.
So you can turn them and kind of like move them, and they kind of like shows you like you're,
poor, rich, poor, guy with no money, guy with a lot of money, guy with no money,
rich,
guy with a lot of money.
My dad's got the animated deck of many things, bitches.
But my dad has a deck of many things. Yeah, but my dad can beat up your dad with his animated deck of many things.
Listen, Cujo's not rich by any means, guys. He's just single.
I don't know. They don't get it, Zero. They don't get it.
They just don't get it.
He has no kids in the house either. So
I look at my funds. I got my bills paid. What can I spend my money on? There is no other thing to spend money on.
So we played.
And the kids are just waiting for that inheritance.
You could smoke crack. I mean,
listen to my boys, man. They're so great. I had them for Christmas, and I said, hey, I have a couple $100. You guys can get whatever you want. And they're like, I don't want this, I want that. They're fine. They're kind of cool. Like, anyway, one kid's got like $30 left, and the other one has 100. That's Christmas. They're still like, yeah, I don't know what I want, Dad. I'm cool. I'm fine with whatever. And I'm like, okay. Your birthday's going to be coming up. Well, yeah, maybe I'll just put that together with a birthday present and maybe get something else. They're
laid back.
They're great kids, man. They're cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and when they come over, I mean, like I was telling Zero, one of my boys. Well, both of them are actually really into Star Wars, and I went ahead and bought both the Star Wars sets for the Star Wars Legions.
Yes.
And I don't know if I necessarily want to play Legions, maybe, but I might want to get into Star Wars roleplay. Mm-hmm. So that might be something else I go into, because I'm not sure. I know that the older editions was by WizKids or Wizards, but
I played the old West End one. It was pretty cool.
The new edition is by what? Fantasy
Flight Games.
Fantasy Flight Games. Yeah. But I don't know the game system. I'm not sure if I'd like it, but
it's not bad. It's not a bad system. It's pretty easy to pick up and play. It does get involved because they make a lot of supplements. It's how Fantasy Flight makes.
I love the miniatures. I figured if anything, I'm getting it for the miniatures, and then maybe if I don't like this game, maybe I'll like the next edition. Maybe there'll be another Star Wars game. I can get into the role play game aspect of it.
Dude, I have a
Or just
ton.
maybe tabletop, because sometimes it's just me and my boys and we don't have enough for a whole D&D session, and maybe we can just play a Star Wars game.
I have a ton
That's
of
actually
Star
pretty
Wars
smart.
miniatures from when Wizards of the Coast was making the blind boxes, when you get like 8 guys, and I went crazy on those Star Wars miniatures. I have the giant AT-AT, and it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
RollStats says they don't care about the dice pool system. Is that like what Star Wars does?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah,
think
like
so.
Vader gets 66, whatever.
Well, I mean, yeah. You don't
So-
want your first.
I really
role-playing
want a
session to-
D20 system, That's what I'm used to.
Your first outing, your player's first outings to kill Lord Vader.
I would love to be. I would love to
Step
figure
up.
out how. I would love to figure out how to play, like
Okay.
use the Star Wars characters and in Rebels and Empire and all that stuff, and just use the D20 5th edition system. I'd love to be able to try to incorporate that.
I'm sure someone will make a rule set for it eventually.
Yeah,
You know.
somebody made like my daughter's into Pokemon and stuff, and somebody made a Pokemon D20 using the D&D stats and stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
When they
Discord.
open sourced all that D20 modern stuff back with Third Ed and that, there's probably
Yeah.
already people who have adapted it, and this is where, like, I used to live with a mate who never, like, he used to DM lots of games, but he'd be like, oh, who wants to do a freeform game? And he would just start making up crap off the top of his head. So he didn't really, but you didn't really need a rule set. Like, he would like, oh, we're going to fight. Okay, roll this and see how you go. And the games are really immersive without having, he would just be like, okay, you pick it. Tell me what sort of character you're going to be and what sort of skills you are. You're like a secret agent that's good at computer hacking and bombs and electronics, or, if you're doing Star Wars, like, are they a rebel or an Imperial
Yeah.
party group and that kind of thing, and you can really wing a lot, I guess. And I don't know what you're going to do as far as terrain goes.
Here's a rule set for
I'm
you
gonna have
guys.
to make some stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see this. It's called Gateway. And basically, it just uses a D20 for all the rolls. Just one D20.
Really?
And it is.
What if you roll a 20?
It's a critical. But,
Why are
like,
you
it is,
doing that? Why are you doing that to this man?
no, but it's like
Every time.
I didn't know in this different game system if 20 still was a critical.
yeah,
That's a
yeah.
little
It's still
distortion, okay.
it's still
It's
critical.
always a critical.
Yeah, it's always a critical.
But what if you roll a 1? It's still a critical fail.
Well, speaking of 20s and 1s, and I
Yeah.
don't know how you guys DM it, and I guess I don't really DM 5th edition, so it's not that much of a thing. But for me, 20s and 1s are for combat only. Like, I don't have,
Yep.
like, I try to
Yeah.
do some ability check and they roll a 20. I automatically succeed. Maybe I'm going to bring up that subject about hiding and crap again that we talked about the other week.
No, don't bring up the hiding. Let's stay
But I
away
just-
from that. That's a different day. It's a different Friday. I'm not
Okay.
here that Friday.
Yeah. What about then? How do you guys milestone or use XP?
I use milestone. To me, it's a lot easier, and that way it's for less for me to keep track.
I use both. I use predominantly
What if you roll a dirty 20?
experience.
It's a dirty critical.
I use predominantly experience, but I also use milestones for very specific events. And certain monsters too will be milestone. Because
I
I
use-
fight them once. I don't want to fight 2 beholders, and I don't want to throw 2 beholders in one campaign. So if they fight a beholder, there's a milestone. You know what I'm saying? I mean, especially if they're close. You know what I mean?
I use milestones. If you're running your homebrew, it's hard to have a milestone unless you just kind of going with a feel for it. I always look at the XP that they're gaining, like according to what D&D says,
Mhm.
So I'm kind of gauging like how much they probably should have, and then going by, yeah, they're pretty close. I'm just gonna go ahead and let them up, level up now before this next. I know what's coming up because I know everything. So I know what's coming up, and it'd be probably a good time, for them because I know they're close. Instead of trying to go through this battle, so I usually use milestone, but I try to keep track of their XP, especially with D&D Beyond. It's great with that new encounter builder. You can build the encounter out, and as you're adding different creatures into the encounter, you can see how hard it's getting, and you can see the experience level. And it's kind of cool to see that.
Yeah.
You mean you only run into one overboard DM in one game? Same thing as a beholder? Oh.
If they fight me, hey, it's time to level up.
You know what?
They can't run into another overboard DM. They're going to be in trouble. Especially if he rolls a 20.
Yep.
Then it's a what?
It's a critical.
Oh my god, we did that again?
Yeah.
I had to get my turn in.
Yeah.
God, dang. I can't get this open.
Oh man.
So I just bought the Rollcyclopedia.
Yes, talk about that.
Yeah, I'm reading through it. Love it. The more I read it, the more I understand Thaco too. But it's not a D20 system, is it?
No. Shouldn't be.
Boo.
Like you use D20s.
Boo.
Uh-huh.
You might as well throw your D20 away. Might as well change your channel to not it's a critical anymore. Because there is no
Bill
more
says-
criticals.
Hey Bill, like this.
When you roll a 6, it's a what? It's a critical. Hey, it's a Yahtzee.
No, but
Doubles roll again.
Oh, when you flip this card over and you get 2 greens, you shoot down the ladder and you go down the slide.
you know in
Pass go, $200.
Did you know in prison they can't have dice, so they use deck cards?
Oh man.
What'd you say, Crit?
In prison, they can't use dice, so they use a deck of cards for the dice roll. Like they have the cards upside, like the deck sitting out, and they draw a card, and that's their dice roll.
Do you know why they can't use dice?
That's life in the big house.
What do they use
Throw out
dice
that-
for?
If you're gonna throw out that fun fact, let's see where you
I don't
are.
know. No, honestly,
Where
I don't
your
know why.
skills are.
D20 is the primary die.
Primary die.
They roll under the system. Oh, okay. It's a rule.
Roll under the system.
Yeah.
Who said that?
Bill,
No.
I don't understand that.
neither do I.
Explain, Bill.
But like, yeah, this book, like I'm reading it and stuff. Dude, this has everything you need for this.
Man, if I ever go to jail, I hope I just have to worry about what dice to roll instead of getting cornered in the showers or something.
Yeah.
Don't drop the soap.
You mean there's D&D in jail? I'm going tomorrow. Shit.
Yeah.
I've got plans every day.
Can I bring my dwarven forge with me?
No, you can't.
Be sharpening up a wall section.
I need Hey, I need an extra
Oh, okay.
cell. I need an extra cell just for my dwarven forge. Can I? I need a key for that too, so I need that locked up.
Cujo
Spending-
the big dog.
Spending your commissary money on placing another dwarven forge order.
Oh man.
That's messed up.
Jiminy Christmas was tough.
All right.
Anybody else have anything else on session 0?
Oh no.
No.
No, I think that pretty well covers it.
Okay.
Woo.
We can hold up. Let me do something real quick, and we'll get something else we can take because we got
Yeah, we're at 2 hours.
we
Yeah.
got about 2 hours in.
Okay, so
We wanna
here,
go to 11.
Bill's, so for example, your strength is 17, you make a strength check. You roll under 17 for a success, over a 17 is a failure. Okay. So if you roll over a 17, you fail, but if you roll under a 17, you succeed.
Anybody got a D20 handy?
Yeah.
Roll one real quick.
Bill,
I'll be right back. I don't have it handy.
I'm gonna have a hard time
Alexa.
playing in your game.
Hey, Google. Roll a 20-sided dice.
Hey Alexa, shut up.
Roll 4.
4.
4.
Yep.
I just said her name and it didn't even go off. But
Creating NPCs. All right.
Oh.
What's your process on making an NPC?
good.
I
How
carry it
important is
around.
it to
Okay.
you? How valuable is it to your campaign? Is it just something you guys do on the whim, on the fly?
Mm.
You know, like for
The hardest
example-
thing. Oh,
Mhm. Go ahead.
The hardest thing for NPCs is friggin' names. Like, if you don't have like a
No.
pre-generated names list, like, oh, you run into John, the local blacksmith, and Frank. Like,
No, that's not the
yes.
hardest thing.
Yes, it is. Yeah. What's harder?
What's harder is the
Coming up with
level of the NPC that you're going to be going up against, and like how important it might turn out to be. Like my problem is that if I don't pre-make them, like if you make an NPC,
Are we talking NPCs or actual like opponent? Are we just talking like NPCs
No,
that
I'm
they
talking
encounter,
about
or,
not okay. I'm not
like
talking
all
about
big bad guys?
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about opponents or
no,
enemies
I
or
mean
anything like
it
that. I'm
could,
talking about
but anybody
NPCs.
could turn into an opponent.
They could if the
Yeah.
players are douchebags and want to kill everybody, sure. But I mean, I'm saying, like, in the
Exactly.
sense of,
So
like,
you have to be prepared for the douchebaggery. But that's
see,
my
I-
problem is if you make an NPC, you got the name, and say you even thought about that in advance, and you just didn't think about how leveled they'd have to be, but you know like what they would be strong or whatever, and then it turns out to be where they're needing to fight. Like, oh shit, I didn't really develop this character fully. What are they? Are they a fighter, warlock, wizard, sword? You know, what level are they? Okay, what class would have picked? I mean, I don't flesh out all my NPCs 100%. And so it's like my big thing is like, what spells would they have? Shit, well they're eighth level, so they'll have a 6th level spell slot, and like I definitely would have picked up this, and like, so yeah.
I mean, if they were a wizard, I guess you got to do a little bit more preparation. But like, I can wing it, so I can have like a captain of the city guard. Like, if the players are dumb enough to just try to throw down with him, like, I can totally not fudge the rolls behind the DM screen.
Good question though. Like a common city guard,
Yes, I get
what
that.
would you consider them?
They're so absurd.
Like, how strong of a character would you consider?
I was talking about like the captain of a city guard, but
captain.
You know, if the wizard fireballs the local bloody fruit and vegetable salesman in the middle of the
they're
market
gone.
square,
They're dead.
They're dead, and the city guard's coming. But if they just want to start picking a fight with city guard, like I'll just wing it based on level. Like I can just keep bringing.
I would say
stuff
that it'd
in,
at least
whatever
be around
feels
a 5th.
right.
Yeah. I would say that strength wise, it'd be at least a 5th level, at least.
you know what?
I mean, it's a bit
you know,
different, I
because-
guess, for AD&D, but like,
yeah.
For like a city guard who's a regular cop, like an on the beat policeman or just a run of the mill city guard, like I would only have them at sort of a 1 and a 2 level, just like the general rank and file, because people that go adventuring from level 1, they're delving into dungeons and there's only 3 or 4 of them and they're going up against monsters. I think that they're probably braver and maybe a bit more in ability than what the average like city guard dude is.
Yeah.
But again, it's all about feel. Like I will just sort of go by flow, and
I guess it all depends on what city you're talking about and how important is the king or whoever you're protecting.
Here's how I do it.
Yeah.
Here's how I do it.
That plays a factor.
NPCs. I use this is all I do, and then I'm simplifying it.
Crit's got notes.
I got a name.
My book of NPCs.
And I got hit points. And that's it.
That's the name's the hardest thing because coming up with like good names on the fly is hard.
It's definitely the one thing I always realized is the players don't give a shit how tough the fighter was. They just want to remember the person's name, right? So if they know the
in
captain of the
general,
guard
that's
and
all
they
you
become
need.
Good with the captain of the guard, they're gonna want to know his name. So when they go back to the town, they can say, "Hey, it's fucking Joe Bob." You know
and
what
if
I'm
something cool's happened with their interaction,
I would
they're
call
like,
him
"Oh,
Joe
well,
Bob.
Yeah, but if
to
they
be honest, look, to be honest, when it
All
comes
of
to
my
an
guys are
NPC,
called Joe. I mean,
all my NPCs, it doesn't matter what they are, they all have everything they need and they all have nothing. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have a 20 strength if they need a 20 strength. They have nothing in their pockets when it comes time to looting them. You know what I'm saying? Like there's
Yeah.
they have everything they need statistically and they have nothing of value. So that's why, unless it's something specific, like if it's the sheriff of a town and he's a douchebag and he fights the players, then he's going to have some value. He's going to have a key to the prison. He's going to have some gold coins.
They'll probably see the badge that says douchebaggery on it.
Exactly.
Sheriff of douchebaggery.
But even that, I don't prep for. The only time I prep a non-player character is for enemies. Like if I have an enemy that's going to be reoccurring, like a nemesis, then I'll prep and I'll create a character for that, because I want that guy to be substantial. But otherwise,
like I when I was running my fifth ed campaign, I had this like recurring character that would just pop up at any time. Like I had no stats for him. The only thing I had for him was a name, and he was basically modeled off Q-Ed or like Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Yes.
Just ultra eccentric, would just pop up and people were like, how the hell does he get here? And he would just like, I guess, humorously interfere with the situation, meddle a bit, and then ping off, and then would pop up randomly in another in another session.
But just
Or if players encounter an NPC, then all you've got is like the name and the hit points. But there's like a cool sort of exchange. Something situationally happens, or like, well, that was a lot of fun. I might bring that person back later. Then I might put a bit more time into fleshing them out a bit more, or have them more involved with like behind the scenes with events that are happening in the campaign. But it's the names that the thing that stumped me. I can off the top of my head everything else. I just needed a name.
And I'll tell you what, Grim. If you are playing 5th edition, which anybody listening, hey, Grim plays 5th edition.
I ran it. I never got to play it.
Oh,
he's not.
Well, okay.
He's not.
So when you run 5th edition and you're on D&D Beyond, I know I say that a lot, but
I used it when I ran it. I used it.
Okay, so when you want to make an NPC, they got a random name generator, and you can just click it, and you don't like that name, just keep clicking it. Boom, I like that. Boom. And then you don't have to flesh out the whole character.
Yeah,
you can just lock in that name.
You can go on Google and just.
I used to pre-generate a list of like 30 names and just have it printed out.
Yeah.
And it would just be like, you run into bang, and I would just like pick one at random. It's such and such, and then I
wouldn't call it bang. I wouldn't date a girl bang.
Well, okay, so one of my NPCs from one of my campaigns.
What's her last name? A lot?
Anything.
No, her middle name is Mila. Hey, Mila. Okay.
How about?
No, so okay. So one of my NPCs that I created, he was a freaking beholder. That's not an NPC.
I love him already.
Yeah.
I love him already.
I actually had him be an NPC beholder. Players came across him. They're like, "Oh my god!" Like one of them went to cast a spell at him. I'm like, "Ha, no," because of his.
One of my favorite NPCs was a brass dragon.
I was just gonna say I had a bronze dragon as an NPC.
They're awesome. They're interfering.
Yes.
They're real low-key.
Yes, I had a bronze dragon land on that ship, and they were on the back of the ship, and I had everybody like flee the ship, the back of the ship, and none of the player characters wanted to come up to it, but they did. They wanted to talk to him. They were like, "What the hell? There's a brass fucking dragon sitting on the back of this fucking ship."
Yeah,
and he's just chilling, and the captain's fine with it, and nobody's talking to him. And they were like, "Man, I wanted to talk to him so bad."
Mine was disguised as a gnome for like many sessions. He was a gnome, a friendly gnome in town.
Your dragons then too.
Say what?
So you guys disguise your dragons. They have them take a human form.
Well, I did for
polymorph.
this one. Yeah.
Hey, gold dragons are key for that.
And then when it became a crucial point in the game, he helped the players, and they basically friended him, obviously, because brass dragons like to they like to have conversations, they like to talk, and they like to be talked to and whatever. So it just worked out. That was one of the NPCs where I actually fleshed out and gave him stats, and I picked him out of the Draconomicon, and it just went well with the players. I don't know if any other dragon would have, maybe a silver dragon, but I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it just seemed to work out.
you go through like the monstrous manual, and you can find like intelligent monsters. We've got an echo happening there, but you can find intelligent monsters, and they're really great as NPCs. Like, not everyone has to be like the barkeep at the tavern, or you know, the dude at the maid shop. But that's why I like dragons. Aren't just about being something that you just go after to fight and combat. Like, how cool is it to have a dragon as an NPC, and the big bad evil guy is just a human with lots of money, or just you know, that he's got money to pull strings behind the scenes without having any powerful abilities himself. Like, you can mix it up, I think. Or you don't have to go.
You don't have to go
cliche. Yeah.
I actually had an ogre in one town. He was actually he worked with an undertaker. The undertaker was human, but the ogre was basically his assistant, and people were just like freaked out. Like, it's an ogre, we got to kill it. Like, not necessarily. You know what I mean? Like, he's just doing a job.
Yeah,
know?
Just because he's a monster doesn't mean you have to fight it.
Unless it's a beholder.
No.
Yes. Listen, beholders are they're the epitome of hatred. If
the beholder had information for the players.
If hate could be, he would never share that.
For the right price, he would.
Is he special? Because.
But see, beholders even hate each other. Like, they hate
to the point where they'll kill each other.
Yeah.
Because they cannot.
So why not send the players to go kill your enemy?
I mean, that's what Xanathar does. I mean, that's his gig, right? But I mean, he's not.
Detail Green plays 2E. He calls the monstrous manual.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, you seen that gold dragon I have, right? I haven't done a video on that yet, but it came with another figure, and it's his other form, because gold dragons love to intermingle with humans.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So my family's campaign, they actually have a dragon egg with them, and then I'm not letting them hatch it. They're taking it around with them. They got it strapped onto the Goliath's back, and they're like, you know, trying to get it hatched, but they don't know how to do it. So I had this, NPC show up. I had this NPC show up, and when I explained it to him, I told him this little looks like a dwarven man. He's all in white robes and gold trim, and this special walking cane, and they were skeptical of him, but he said, I'm going to help you. I want to see how he's doing. And he knew already about the egg.
Right.
He wanted, and they were like, what's going on? What do you mean? He's like, let me check this. Want to look at him. They're like, what's he doing? They say, stop that. Wait. And he's just checking out the egg. He's like, they had a cart, and he jumped in the back of the cart. He's like, I can help you with this, progressing this a little bit further. And I wanted to see if they were going to let him do this. And it was really cool interaction. And anyway, he went for a ride, and they got all the way to the destination they wanted to go to. And they all got out at the destination. This is in Lost Mines of Phandelver, by the way. Yeah, I've got dragon eggs. I've got fucking, gold dragons and
never trust the
metamorphing. So hey. So anyway, so they get to where they need to go at Wave Echo Cave, and then all of a sudden, I say that little old man jumps out the back, and he's running away, but he's hobbling, and then I'm like, and then all of a sudden they say that he's dropping some gold and some gems, because they had a whole bunch of gold and gems inside that cart, and they're like, I said, I wanted to see if they were gonna shoot, and sure enough, my daughter was like, that's her egg, and she's like, I draw my bow back and I shoot him. I'm like, really? Okay, roll to hit. And then I say it deflects off of him, and you're like, you knew for sure you hit him, and all of a sudden he's not running, but he's just like, okay, I gotta go, guys, and he's just kind of like not looking back, he's just walking away, and they don't know if he's got the egg in his hands or not, and so they're like panicking, going, oh my gosh, he's got the egg, and it was a great thing, and the Goliath ended up running and catching up with them. And I said he was in the woods, and you turn and you see him. Well, actually, you don't see him. You actually see a dragon, gold dragon, flying above the trees. And he says, "I said you're okay. I'll be back." And he leaves.
How old
so
is this dragon?
Is a adult gold dragon.
Damn.
So 100 years.
You stole
Yeah.
from them, you bastard.
So yeah, this Don't Go Dragon says he's gonna take some of a little. He's got to take a little something.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
So
he's
did he
helping
take
him
the
out.
egg?
Yeah. No, he didn't take the egg, but he was helping the egg get further closer to hatching.
You
And he said he'll be back.
I guess if you read the dragon lore, they probably a gold dragon could get away with doing that because his whole thing is like, well, you guys are paying homage to me, right? Because
Yep.
I'm
Yeah.
the
Well,
shit.
like in The Witcher, if you guys haven't seen The Witcher yet on Netflix, when that guy showed up and started talking about how gold dragons exist and stuff, I'm like, he's a fucking dragon. Pardon my French. And I'm like, he's a dragon. My wife's like, no, he's not. He's human. I'm like, he's a dragon. He transformed himself into a human to help out. Yeah. And he shows back up and stuff. And like,
Oh, pardon
wife's
my
like,
French.
how?
Oui,
My wife's like, how? I'm like, he's a dragon.
What if you roll a 20?
It's a critical.
But
Wee-wee.
if you play with RollStats, you got to roll under, so a 1 is in a critical.
Okay, I just roll my stats and hope I hit. Hope it's a 20 so I can get a critical. Because,
But what I'm saying, it's so fun to role play. That try to figure out how to role play a character that they're interacting with that is something else. And I played doppelgangers. And that was really weird.
Oh, that is so fun.
It's really weird. But then playing this character right here that I was talking about was really something else. I'm like, are they gonna figure it out? What are they gonna do? Or are they just gonna play along? And they played along, so nothing crazy happened until that end. And then until that one character, only the one character knows that he transformed into he thinks he didn't see the transformation, but it is a lot of fun to do that, and it was a good time. I had a good time, and I think they had all a good time because they were like anytime when everybody's panicking as a group, they're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And they're all trying to do things. They're all having a good time. They're all having fun, and they thought, oh, he's backstabbing us.
Well, I had an NPC that basically worked in a tavern where these players would always go back to, and they'd be sitting there role playing, but talking at the table. And this guy would, oh look, let me come and help you serve their food. They'd be talking all their plans, and every time they'd go to do something, the enemy knows what, and they're like, how do they know? Like, what is going on? And like sessions and sessions later, one of them goes, we're in the tavern and we're talking all the time, and they basically started to pay attention, and little old mate working behind the bars like listening in on the conversation, and they like drag him outside and kill him. But they were so mad, and so betrayed. They're like, this guy that brings us our food and our ale, and that's been like knocking us out and making money off. Like, that's what I like NPCs for. They're not just random place fillers. Like, have fun with them. Use dragons. Use monsters. You go through the monster manual, the monstrous manual, as I call it, because of 2E. You look for any of those monsters that have got a high intelligence. That immediately gives them like the faculties or whatever to be an influence in your campaign world.
Yeah.
And affect the party and do different things like.
No, 100%.
It's Bob, he's a spy. He said. Bill wrote, it's Bob, he's a spy. Fucking Bob.
The Bob Joe, Jim, Bill. All these common names.
Was it Speaking Beholder?
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to name a beholder. Cujo, you're going to be my next NPC.
Cujo the Beholder.
Cujo the Beholder.
Oh,
Put it on
man.
DM's Guild.
Oh.
He's got a little pet dog. He's on a chain. It's hooked up to one of his eye stalks.
Or just like a lip ring.
Yeah.
Has the ponytail. This beholder actually has hair.
Oh, his beholder has hair.
It has hair and a goatee.
Dreadlocks.
Can I just Photoshop a picture of you on it?
He's a hipster beholder.
Yeah.
Give him a
Hey,
mustache.
I do have that Reaper. I know you guys. I'm not sure if anybody of you have backed that Reaper Bones 5, but they have a beholder that's a pumpkin with like 10 pumpkin stalks like coming off of it. And they just finished the model. It was just a sketch art. I just got the update the other day that they finished the model, what it's going to look like, and it's pretty cool. Definitely a Halloween type special. It's got 10 eye stalks. You can still run like a regular
They've done
beholder.
Santa Claus and all that sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Just a fun little thing.
It was like,
It was just an add-on anyway.
Yeah, some of those Reaper minis are pretty cool, even for basic ones, like
I
sort of stuff.
Yeah, I have a ton of Reaper minis, Bones especially. I mean, I have a lot of the old school metal ones, and when they came out with Bones, I was like, oh, godsend, man, especially for Dungeon Masters. I was like, oh, you mean I don't have to spend $10 per guy? Cool.
Yeah.
I'll do that, man. You know. Then the players are like, damn, where'd you get all these skeletons and orcs and blah? I'm like, yeah, I got them from the store. You know, the place you guys should get it from. You know, but yeah, like I said, I go mini crazy, so I'm all about those miniatures.
I'll get more.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Honestly, if you get a 3D printer, MZ4250, he did the whole monster manual and Mordecai's Thermal Foes. He did all.
Yeah, I did see that. Well, the work's actually gonna let me use one of theirs. So as long as I pay for the filament, I can print whatever I want.
Yeah, if you get a 3D printer, you're gonna run out of filament.
Yeah, trust me.
That's all right. And I'll get it through work. So it'll be cheap as.
You know, I make it hit. You know.
Oh.
Stat says that the first rule of D&D is never trust the NPC, and the second rule of D&D is never trust the NPC.
The third rule is don't tell players when you increase the hit points of the characters that they're fighting against.
Yeah, that's like a guaranteed. I'm not going to play with you ever again.
Between these and making miniatures, I'm out of filament.
Yeah.
I'm happy with the cardboard tiles, though. They turn out.
Well, I took a break on these. I got like 6 of these still and 12 of the 2x2s.
Well, I was telling Quinn today that I'm working on this beholder miniature. I'm working on this lights, all these different lights and shit. And then I was looking at a base for it. I'm like, I actually hit him up on Discord and Messenger, and asked him, how would you do a base that can hold a battery, hold a battery mount? And I gave him a couple ideas that I was throwing around. I said I don't have a 3D printer, of course, because that would be great. I could just make a thick base that's hollow on the inside and print it, and I'd be done.
If you guys
what about a button style battery?
Yeah.
Like a watch battery, but much bigger. Bigger diameter, so it's flat.
Well, it's got this battery pack that's pretty flat.
Oh, I must have a button battery in it already. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a battery in it.
Wire it.
And it's got a switch on it. So if I can lock that into a base, which
the Games Workshop bases have.
Oh, that's a good idea right there.
You know what I mean?
But I don't know if it'd be thick enough. It's about I want to say it's a 1/4 inch thick.
No.
1/4 inch? Yeah, no. This is.
But see, I could take something like that and then make it a little bit thicker somehow.
How about like a lid, a screw lid for something?
Yeah, he said take some plastic and then running it around, and then put it, gluing it together. Is it like a?
Is it maybe something about that thick?
Yeah,
or just bomb it with a glue stick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I know.
Tropicana
orange juice. The jugs that they make, their lids look like pedestals.
Yeah.
If you look at their lids. I've used them actually in scenery. I've made pedestals because they have little arches in them and stuff. You could actually, and they're really tall, so you could actually use one of those and put everything underneath there in the kitchen sink.
A beholder's a large creature?
Huge.
Huge?
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna put them on
right there.
I don't think they're huge, man.
Huge.
No,
I don't think they're huge. I think they're large. That's 4 squares.
Yeah. So that's large. Okay. So if you get something like this right here, Cujo.
Yeah.
A smaller lid.
That's a little bit too thick, I think.
Yeah, but if you get like a plastic one, you got a Dremel, right?
Yeah.
It'd have to be large.
Yeah, Dremel.
Yeah, I looked at some of my other beholders, and they were on large bases.
Yeah, you're right. It's a large base. You're right.
Man, I wish I had a beholder.
That's the only thing I've got left of 5th ed. I found it in my stuff and storage. Just DM screen.
That's all you
got them
need.
Both?
Hey?
You got
That's all you need.
Yeah. Wait, you got the reincarnated one in the original?
No, I just had I had this one and then I couldn't find it, and then I bought another one. But then I sold all my 5e books, and then I was going through my storage stuff and I found this.
It's actually a really good DM screen for 50.
I don't like the height of the 5e. I don't know whether the first edition 5e was like that, but I like the height of the 2e one. So it's like A4, I guess. In height.
Oh yeah.
Bit higher.
Yeah, I have the 3.5 one, and that's a taller one. I like that one because you could actually get I could get my whole laptop behind that one.
See, I can't reach my Dwarven Forge over the bigger ones.
It's not a problem for it's not a problem for the poor man. Reaching down from your ivory tower.
How do these guys with these big DM screens get to their Dwarven Forge? I don't understand how they get to it.
I use a stick. I use a rag and a stick. I just push stuff around.
I had to use like a laser light and say, hey, let me point,
I use my players.
Yeah.
Hey,
Leave that figure over there.
Oh, shit.
Last night I found like these dungeon walls they interlock together. You just put them on your battle mat and stuff. I'm like, man, those are actually neat.
Back when I was like 13 or 14, there was this dude that was a DM, and he basically had like a normal sized table, and he just ran basically a power saw in a 1-inch grid, did the whole table, and it was like, I don't know, 5 millimeters thick. I'm not converting that to imperial. If you don't adopt the metric system, that's your problem. But if you, and then basically he made wall sections that just had little tongues on it that would just like sit in the slot, so he could like construct out a really intricate big dungeon on the table. Oh, he lost Cujo.
Yeah, I think his phone died.
Or his Dwarven Forge avalanched on top of him.
Yeah. So, Cujo,
My Dwarven Forge fell on top of me.
Yeah, avalanche. But I see Dwarven Forge are actually going to start streaming a new thing on Twitch, and Poganski is going to be DMing it. So I actually like watching his DM style because he is like really old school the way he DMs, even though he's got like all this terrain.
Yeah.
I still think he's very.
I've seen a lot. Of course, I follow them on YouTube.
You sound like you're far away, Cujo.
Oh, let me. I disconnected. Let me.
I don't know why StreamYard. Once you set your parameters for your mic,
Am I back?
Yep,
Yeah.
you're back.
Once you set the parameters, if you log out, you go back in, it changes your parameters to the standard again. I don't understand why StreamYard does that. Fix that, StreamYard, if you're watching.
But yeah.
If you want to sponsor us too, go for it.
I was just gonna say that, or give us money.
just let us stream. I'm fine with that. Just give us the unlimited streaming hours. I'm fine with that.
No, give me money.
But I was following Dwarven Forge, and they do like a build of the month, and he'll build something regular, or somebody will send something in that they built, and he'll rebuild it for everybody on on a YouTube video and stuff. And I've been looking at what I want to do in my videos, and what I want to do is for a customer standpoint is I want to take, especially their Caverns Deep that's coming out, that's really big. Everybody wants it. People are selling their old stuff to get this new stuff. I see a trend. I mean, I follow everything on eBay versus on their website, everything. So I see all the old stuff going up for sale, and I'd like some of the old stuff. But anyway, what I want to do is take they have Dwarven Forge sells all their stuff in like little kits. They have some starter sets, and then they have like this encounter and this encounter and this encounter. And I want to take as someone like yourself that goes, man, I'm thinking about getting into Dwarven Forge. I like that encounter. What else could I build with that encounter? Because I'll tell you what, that's awesome information. When I'll build it, and I want to start the video with it already built. And I'm going to say, okay, what else can I build with this? And you're going to be surprised. It's about nothing. It's going to be about hardly anything, because they've specifically built this really cool little tiny encounter, and it looks really cool, and it's good to sell to somebody, but you need a lot more than that. Their starter sets are better. I mean, you can get into Dwarven Forge for like $58, unpainted. You can get a nice couple rooms and some doors and all that stuff, and the standard thing. And I also want to try to do that too, like take what their starter sets, it entails, and I'm going to try to put something together that, everything.
It's like the Lego guys who make up custom designs using the brick site online, and then they say, here's a list of the bricks you can buy individually, and you can make this other cool thing.
But I want to be able to people say, hey, if I buy the encounter number 1, man, that's not good. I need at least encounter 1 and 2, or I need encounter 1 and 4. If I get encounter 1, that's just not going to be good enough.
Yeah, and like I would still get value.
The point of his goal, right, is to make the money, right?
Yes.
And to stay in business.
My goal is to inform the customer.
Which I love.
That's extremely valuable. That's
watching your videos is like D&D porn with Dwarven Forge in it. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, honestly, that's why I do all the unboxings and the reviews and stuff, all the crap I buy, because it's like, yo, don't spend your money on this crap. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've done it already. I already have it. Let
Zero do it.
Let Zero do it.
And it's good because, like, I would never buy Dwarven Forge because the exchange rate and shipping and all that.
Yeah,
it's so not worth it. But I can still see what you or somebody else does with the terrain to make a certain setting, and I'm like, well, shit, I will replicate that if I making it myself or find a cheaper alternative and all that. So I like, and again, maybe even going back to the first subject of our discussion today with like people that are starting to DM, there are so many resources on YouTube. You are not on your own. You don't have to start from scratch. Leverage what everyone has done before you. Take what you want and use it, and
absolutely,
you can just really go to town with it.
I found so many stuff out there, like for tech for D&D and stuff, like websites and stuff. But honestly, if I don't like it, I would not put it on my channel.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
because like I found this one site, and it's like it's supposed to help you write a campaign stuff, and it says, "Oh, you can start out free, but then you got to pay for the add-ons and stuff." I'm like, well, that's not going to be useful for somebody that's on a budget.
But like a 20-minute video like that Bill did about like the basic premises behind campaign building, that can be enough to get you started. Like, you don't have to go high tech or high expense for everything. There's the whole thing that Zero was talking about. Like, you can start this hobby on zero to low investment and get a lot of distance out of that before you start dropping money. And when you are finally ready to spend money, you know the things that you're going to buy that are going to be actual benefit to you. Like, there's no point, I've got this and that, and no one cares, or you don't use it in a game or whatever. Like,
that's just like today's phone games that are, you don't have to pay anything. You don't have to pay anything to play. But you probably want to buy something here, You want to play a little bit more. You want to have this cool feature. And it's like it's free. It's free to play.
When I decided I was going to play D&D 5th edition, and I started looking into, and this is before I met you guys. This is me on my own doing my own homework. And I was like, what do I need to get? Like, what? I know what I want to do, right? Like, I want to run Forgotten Realms because I love the setting. What do I need to do, right? So I started looking at reviews. I started looking at people's videos and like, is this book essential? Do I need to go out and buy 6 fucking books? And I realized, like, no, I don't need any of these books.
Like, when I sold my stuff at the start of the year, I had every 5e book up to Ghosts of Saltmarsh. I bought the whole lot.
Yes.
But then I was like, I homebrew everything. Like, I bought all these campaigns, like the Volo's guide and all that. They're cool, and I've got like all the 2E Volo's guides and stuff like that, which are pretty hard to come by now. But I was like, I really, instead of spending, there's like a few $100s there I could have spent on other stuff that would have been more beneficial to me running the game. I have a lot of 2E stuff, but I collect it. and not as
Yeah.
an investment. I do it for my own enjoyment. So you don't have to do that. You don't have to see the dudes on Facebook that have got like bookshelves full. They've got everything. I've got every single thing that's made and all that.
Yeah, like that guy
Don't-
RollStats.
That guy.
Don't even.
He's got all that 2E stuff
Good
and the
God.
1E stuff and the 3. He's got the 5E. He's got all
Yeah.
those books.
Don't care.
God, those guys. He's always got in the background of his videos with everything he's got. God, you don't you don't have to be that guy, okay?
I'm jealous of that guy. I'm not gonna lie. All the
I love that. I love that guy.
Bill,
Bill, we love you. We love you, Bill.
and
it's like I
also,
said, right? Like
Okay,
you
but-
don't need those hardbacks to run a game, right? I mean, sure they help with your fluff.
You need those greenbacks.
You know, you need greenbacks. You know, I realize, right? Like, unless something dramatically changed within the Forgotten Realms, which some things did, I still can use my 3.5 campaign book for information, right? Like, if I need to, okay, they're going to the Dale Lands, right? I need to know what's in the Dale Lands. I have a book that already says that, right? So I don't need to go out and buy a whole new book.
Yeah.
You know, unless there's a giant crater where the Dale Lands used to be. Oh, okay, well, I guess that's changed, you know. But other than that, the resource is already there. You know.
But
what
in
I'm
your
saying?
campaign, it could be exactly the way it always is.
Right. I mean,
You don't have to have that crater that's in
Right.
5th edition. You
Yeah,
know?
exactly. I mean, that doesn't mean that I'm not using the 5th edition stats. That's what
Yeah.
I need, right? Like, I need statistics. So if they're going to encounter a green dragon, I have to have stats for a 5th edition green dragon, right? Like,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That's it. You know. So I mean, you know, in all, you can do this very cheap. You know, you won't stay that way. I guarantee it. Like, anybody who gets into these hobbies knows you're never going to stay at 0 level. You know what I mean? You're eventually going to say, oh, let me see what that module has to offer. Well, let me see what this book has to offer. Let me pick up this
Yeah.
miniature because it's kind of cool looking. Then a year later, you've got cabinets and bins and drawers full of shit, and you're doing videos on how to get started on D&D with a giant library behind you of books.
Or you're doing videos of all your shelving with all your stuff on it and all your.
I'm over here sporting a Mickey Mouse calendar, and this guy's got books. And I'm like,
see, all my books are behind my screen.
He says he's got 3.0 stuff, but I don't see anything. I see a Mickey Mouse thing. I think he homebrews everything. You don't have anything.
All my stuff's behind my screen, so I can't even show it off. I need like a second camera just pointing at my shelf, just panning around,
actually,
slowly up and down.
the video I just did of my layer, I'm gonna do
What
a
edition?
second one. I'm gonna do a second one of my other layer, the bat layer. It's where I keep all my D&D stuff. It's at my buddy's house. So when I actually go to set up for the next game, for my actual game, I'll do a quick video of all the stuff that we keep there, so you guys can see how small this actually is compared to what he's got over there.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, it's you know, I have a video of Rob's 40K Army showcase. If you watch the video, that table is 4 by 8 feet and then some. You know what I'm saying? So the area that we use to play is just huge, you know, because he's got a full basement, and we just, you know what I mean? So I keep all my stuff there because to take it back and forth, and the amount of miniatures I have, what I have here is nothing compared to what I have at his house in storage, because
Yeah.
I've been collecting Dungeons and Dragons miniatures since I started D&D. You know, back when Citadel was making Dungeons and Dragons miniatures, you know, and now they're Games Workshop, you know. So, yeah. Oh, I also, real quick, off subject, I found a poster for my wall. I feel
Oh yeah.
What is it?
that's a
Or-
Imperial, that's an Imperial Knight.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like it.
I found it. I was like, what? I forgot I had it. And then just threw it up.
Hey,
Yeah.
speaking of big tabletops,
Mhm.
I seen a guy on his Facebook group. I want to say, I don't know if it's Fred's group, but this guy is going to town on Phandalin. He's got
Oh yeah, it was
he's
Fred.
got a 4 foot by 8 foot table set up of the town.
Oh wow.
and it's just painted on the table, I think, with the roads and where all the houses are at,
That's
and
dedicated.
the buildings. I'm like, I told him it was a joke, and if he's listening, I mean, it's kind of cool.
You're talking
But
about the dude that's making.
I said it needs to be a little bit bigger.
Did you
Like,
Yeah, I was in it when it.
like literally, it looked like a pool table set up, but I'm like, he needs to be even bigger than that. Shit.
Did you see that dude that's making that huge, massive, large-scale thing of Waterdeep? Like the whole, like it's scaled in, obviously, because Waterdeep's huge, but it's crazy.
No,
like,
I haven't seen that yet.
I've seen.
I have a project that I'm working on that's
Listen, I've seen tables, man. I'm not even kidding. When I first started Warhammer 40K, there were table size, legitimate tournament size was 4x8. They've actually shut down the 4x6 now, but the 4x8 tables, I've seen dudes that have one layer. The bottom layer is the dungeon, then you got those sewers, then you got the town. You know what I'm saying? Like he had layers on this table.
Wow.
With lights, smoke, water, everything, and I was just like, what the. But this was a dude. This wasn't like a company like Games Workshop or nothing. They have great tables too. This was a guy who just said, "I am going to do this table," and he used like dwarven. He used everything he could find to build this table. And the dungeon.
I think 8x4 is an awesome size. Like I'm used to that from the early 40K days back when I played. So I think 8.4 is a good size gaming table. Even for D&D, because there's enough room for players to sit around the edge and put their stuff down. I see like lots of people now have the table with the little sunken area for gaming, but it's just not that big. Like, the area that they've got to actually.
I actually plan on making my own table, and I'm going to have a sunken area, but I want to have enough. I want to have enough writing area all the way around for everybody. Like
I'm not against the sunken area. I think that's
like 11 to 12 inches of writing area.
Yeah, but their dimensions, like they only had. I don't know, like maybe 3 or 4 feet of space to actually lay stuff out. I want a big area. That's just me, I suppose.
I'm probably going to do...
When I started running D&D and my characters got to like between 10 and 15th level, they started fighting big things. And I realized, like, when I was using dragons and I was using harpies and I was using flying griffins and, manicores and stuff, I was like, geez, man, the amount of space that they allow you generally for Dungeons & Dragons, like they give you these little maps that are maybe 2 feet at the biggest, I'm like, there's no way if I was a flying monster, I would even attack these people in this area because I'm going to get killed. You know what I mean? Like, it's designed for the players to take advantage of short spaces and distances. So I started using the larger table with the larger map, and my players were like, damn, I got to chase this fucking dragon. It's like, yep. Yeah. Because he flies. That's the benefit of flying, And
AD&D, like 2E, they actually had rules for miniatures for mass battle stuff, so you're sort of going from D&D to have like these large scale battle scenarios. You need space.
I did it in the game. I did it. They actually went to Cormier, which is it's like a big city with multiple levels and stuff in the Forgotten Realms, and the city was about to be attacked by a giant orc and barbarian army. And the players were assuming that they were going to basically just do like a take 20, and the game was going to be, they were going to talk about the battle, get to the battle, and then they were just going to go to after the battle. But I actually, because I had so much stuff for Warhammer Fantasy and so much stuff for scenery, and I set up the entire table, and we went through an entire battle. The battle took 2 sessions, but when they were done, the players were just like, you know what I'm saying? But they all, that's one of those parts of the game. They're like, dude, I like the player who had the dwarf, he died, in that battle, but he had like so many orcs piled on top of him because he was just killing. And there's just, those things are the things that they remember, you know what I'm saying? Like at first they were like, oh, this is a lot of, what are you going through all this trouble for? But after the battle, they were like, dude, that was epic,
it's awesome.
And it's like that feeling you get, you're like, okay, that part of the job is done, So they had their Helm's Deep, and they knew it was like a Helm's Deep, a throw to Helm's Deep. They knew it, you know what I'm saying? But they had their Helm's Deep, and they were just like, let's not do that again,
We're gonna wrap. Not to interrupt, but are we gonna wrap this up around 12?
Yeah, we
got
like
7 minutes.
Yeah. So okay, I got a quick question now.
We're going on 7 minutes.
So I only use my battle mat for encounters. And theater mine and everything else.
Yeah.
Is that what you guys do too? Like if they're in the tavern, you don't even set anything up, you just theater mine it?
Yeah, unless there's going to be a fight in the tavern, and that's the case, I draw it up real quick, and there you go.
Yeah, I would do the same.
Now, do you guys always keep the battle mat on the table?
Yep.
Because I do
I've
too.
never used one, so. But essentially, yeah, I would just leave it on the table, erase it. I'm talking about I assume you're talking about dry erase, just as it's required, draw something on. If not,
Well, Grim,
Well,
I
I
got
mean,
one. Oh,
well,
sorry.
Before you leave the tavern thing, if you suspect that there could be something go down in the tavern, if it's just like a general, they're gonna go in there, they're gonna get drinks, they're gonna get a room, asks the NPCs for what's going on. You know that there's probably nothing going to go down, or maybe you don't want anything to go down, so you're not going to put specific NPCs in the bar that's going to like cause a ruckus. Then yeah, you don't need anything. Nothing's
like if
gonna
I was
go
a
down.
player and they started drawing out the tavern, I'd be like, this either means something key's here or some shit's about to go
See, now
down.
for me, I set everything up in another room. So I'll have like the tavern set up. If I think there's something going to go down, I'll set up another scene that's going to go down. I try to do it like Critical Role does it because I like that. I used to do it like put everything on the table. I don't do that. So I like to have something set up on the other room. So if like something goes down in the tavern, boom, I drop the tavern down. Let's get to it. They're like, oh shit, oh my gosh, it's about to get real.
I got to the point where like even for bar fights, I didn't even use miniatures. It was just theater of the mind for the bar fights because it was pretty much like it's a tiny space, but now a big thing like a story moment, like a plot moment. I actually eventually drew out a full scale tavern for them because this was the same place they always frequented. But when it got destroyed throughout the campaign, there was a point where it got demolished. Because of a giant battle that went on, and obviously anybody that casts a fireball spell, that's it. Tavern's done. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I actually had it drawn out so that whenever it came down to it, I laid it down, and they were like, okay, so we've got a whole map of the tavern. Something is about to go down. You know what I mean? But otherwise, it was just theater of the mind for any small skirmishes or bar fights and stuff like that. Wasn't important enough to have a miniature and a map unless it was important miniature.
I'm currently trying to build the Yawning Portal in my own idea of what it's supposed to look like. I mean, I've got the map, the original, I've got the pictures, and I'm doing it with my Dwarven Forge, and I've built something. I need to like make some stuff out of wood. I've fabricated some other stuff. I've crafted some other stuff. So that's going to be for the Yawning Portal. If you're running Dungeon of the Mad Mage, you're going to be in that portal a lot. You're going to be in that, not portal, but you're going to be in the Yawning Portal a lot, that bar, so that something could go down. So if you have something made for that, you're going to be returning to there. You're going to be going back down. You're going to maybe coming back up. You're going to be going back down. That's like a key point of your adventure. Yeah. Definitely maybe has something for that. And you never know.
One thing I was going to say is like it's cool Critical's asking us all these questions and we can give our own take, but I think Critical, just use what works best for you. Just because I do it a certain way or we do it a certain way, that might not make sense to you. So if you're comfortable doing it that way and that works great for you, there's no reason to change.
Look at the feedback of your players. If you're having good a time, it's all about you having a good time and your players having a good time, then you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. So on that note, I think we're going to call it here. And I want to thank you guys for coming on. Anybody who's still watching, or if anybody watches this afterwards, you can check us all out. We're all on the Tabletop Dungeoneers Discord server. We'll put the link in the description below, and there will also be links to all of our channels as well. And you can find our channels on the Discord as well. So please stop by, check us out, tell them Zero sent you, or Hate or Crit or Cujo, and let us know what you think. Also, for those who aren't here and who are watching, and don't be afraid to leave comments afterwards. I'm sure Critical will be answering those comments as soon as he can, and we'll try and jump on and do the same.
Or something that we need to discuss in the next session.
Absolutely. If anybody has any ideas or thoughts on subject matter for our show, please feel free to share them with us or send us send us an email at what is it? The Tabletop
tabletopdungeoneers@gmail.com.
There you go. Tabletopdungeoneers@gmail.com. We'll put that in the description as well. So you guys can send us emails there. Send us your hate mail, your fan appreciation, your thoughts, your ideas.
All feedback or
everything.
what is
Any
welcome.
feedback will
I mean,
Cash.
if all it is zero sucks, I mean that's fine too. I mean,
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? If
you can just
somebody-
hit like repeat zero sucks, zero sucks, zero. Every comment can be zero sucks. And
I
we're
will put
fine
on
with
the
that.
Facebook page.
We are fine with that. Okay, just letting you know.
I'll just take it on Facebook at Tabletop Engineers.
But yeah, I think I got everything pretty much covered. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you did.
yeah, that's good.
Okay. All right.
Good
well,
job.
All right. Thanks,
thank you
fellas.
guys, and appreciate you guys who watched and everybody. I want to also really quick shout out to Hate. I want to shout out to Daniel, to
Bill from RollStats.
Arclight, yeah, and Bill from RollStats.
Almighty
Anyway.
Internet.
Almighty,
any-
yeah. Oh, you guys, thank you guys for
Almighty, yeah.
jumping in on the chat.
Yeah.
And
Thanks for anybody watching or listening
Yeah,
right now.
absolutely. Thank you guys for jumping in on the chat. My buddy James, thank you as well. Appreciate you. And we will see you guys hopefully next week.
Cheers.
Oh, and if you roll a 20,
It's a critical.
Oh,
Wait a second.
Oh, they stole it from you. They stole it from you.
cut.
Ah, see you later, guys.
I'm
Thank
It's
you,
a
guys.
critical.